final. It's a best of 5, so make sure you settle in as once again, I believe I spied a rumble in the jungle. There's a few people backstage that are going to be saying that it's not the greatest skin of all time, but they do not have a microphone now. And I can tell everyone, though, that line of pineapples, it's just glorious.
It's a good one. You know, I think that whoever doesn't have the mic currently is incorrect. So I would agree with you there, Atlas, as
Thanks, Brendan.
We're spamming some...
I'm not looking angrily at him or anything like that. There were no threats that were mouthed or anything. Just take my word for it.
Did you see the shout-outs there from Ruler? He's got the old Samsung Galaxy flare and also the Gen.G thrown up there. Just showing that Ruler has been everywhere. He's gone over to China. He's won in the LPL, and now he's back with Gen.G in Korea.
Hope was his predecessor on Gen.G back in that 2022 roster. I was super high on Hope that year, and I thought Gen.G were going to make that run. It was DRX ultimately who won it in the end, but Hope now plays against the one who replaced him. So very interesting to see all of this. Again, not a surprise to anyone probably that we see double Unsealed Spellbook across our supports. Ruler going for the Comet, will be going for that lethality variant, which I think is, again, it's extremely common and makes a lot of sense here, but it does mean that consistent damage is not something Gen.G necessarily have in a longer team fight, especially consider that Azir damage and some of the Rumble damage that can come through as well.
You know what I really like about Chovy here on Yone in Game 1 is I feel like this is his stomp champ, you know? It's like he picks it when he wants to send a message. Like, he has done it to so many mid laners in the LCK and internationally on this champion. Obviously, it's very strong nowadays, so that's another good reason, but I feel like in terms of that, you know, trying to get into their heads, if you have a really good game on Yone and your Chovy right from Game 1, I think you're going to be sending a great message.
Well, let's see how it is going to go. Already playing pretty aggressively in the lane as Shanks holding on to things. We'll get knocked up here momentarily. It is just get as many minions as you possibly can and try not to trade your entire health bar for it, as Keen is going to be able to find a cute little Q here. So far, feels like the lanes are relatively neutral outside of bottom side where the push seems to belong to anyone's legend. It's good to see things starting off real close.
Chovy looking aggressively here, just going to hang out on the edge of that turret shot. Those are the kind of plays you have to make, like you were talking about, Atlas, where you get the minions you can, you get the trades you can. Otherwise, a tough matchup to play is Duro.
Duro going to spot that he went home. Does mean that Kyle does have to walk as far away from this lane as possible. Not really going to get fully punished or anything like that.
I mean,
just a little bit of a delayed back.
Yeah, desynced backs really matter, though, when you're trying to go for a lane swap like this. And it is going to hurt the pacing here.
True. Maybe now it's just going to be a Jhin top situation. The Jhin against K'Sante is going to be the answer. As Tarzan moving towards the mid lane, just going to try and help sort this lane out, give Shanks a decent back angle.
It's like Flandre will get his back off without a problem here, and there's no crash, so disaster averted here for AL for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. Just waiting for this very early swap. We used to see this all the time. At 3 minutes, 30 seconds, you just want to make sure you have better matchups in your lanes. I forget who it was we were talking to on the desk, but they were just saying, like, you really want to go for the swap immediately when you feel like your top laner is going to have a better time into the into the duo. I think it was Busio, yeah, who was talking about that. So in terms of specifically going for lane swap timings, definitely want to get that Jhin away from the Varus, who can be an annoying lane bully, but also feeling like Keen won't have as good of a time in the 1v2 as Flandre will.
Yeah, Flandre losing a little bit of farm here. You could see that's starting to add up in the top CS difference, even though not laning against each other. But did not have to use his teleport to get to the lane, so is still holding on to that one. Keen, obviously, same story up here on the top side. Has not completed his first back just yet.
Kind of awkward. The Keen is sort of just there on an island trying to get as much experience as he can. He's well and truly zoned away from actually killing any minions, but I think is in experience range. Trying to do the same thing on the other side of the map is Gen.G to Flandre, so it's going to be some pretty low econ top laners, I think.
Which does favor the K'Sante, you have to think. I mean, K'Sante does a lot with the little. Rumble is going to need those items a lot more. And Keen is happy to just not even take a back here and sit in this lane. He is soaking a lot of that experience, even though it's lower eco than otherwise. He's about half a level up on Flandre as Shanks.
Yeah, Shanks level 5. Actually taking so much damage here. There's the flash out. One more auto. before the snapback would have been death, and Chovy not even going to invest the flash. Shank's going to have to go home and has a long walk back.
I mean, you could see that both the junglers and the supports are kind of hanging around that mid lane because Chovy's creating so much action. And again, he's setting the tempo. He is setting the pace of this game, and he's saying, I'm going to control it on this Yone. He's like, yeah, melee into range, doesn't matter. I'm playing Yone, it's OP. I'm going to win the trades. I'm going to have my team there to support me so I can continue to put on that pressure and essentially just do whatever I want is what Chovy is saying.
Yeah.
We're having a swap back here. Looks like Keen's going to TP bot.
Looks like they're going to maintain that lane into the Keen Sante here. The teleports will be traded. In fact, actually, Flandre, I was looking at this thinking he was going to just TP back in, but the wave state on the top side means he doesn't have to, so he's actually going to maintain teleport advantage over Keen, who had to go down there and catch that wave as it was being pushed in very quickly there. So he barely gets the back off top side there with that wave and goes straight to the bottom lane. Hope and Kyle will go down and match him. But yeah, like you guys have been talking about, this Chovy lane pressure that's been generated is exactly what you want to see. Gives you hope that this Yone is going to hit the mark in these upcoming team fights. Speaking of, we're a ways away from one right now with no dragon control really to either team, and the Grubs aren't spawning for another minute 30 as Keen, level 6.
Yeah, he just takes a beating, and he's just kind of okay. I guess the Malmesh sorry, the Negatron Cloak helping more than I think it had any right to at that point in time. Is still retaining a decent CS advantage as well, as we've seen that combo before. This time he's going to be able to eliminate it, as that's an all-out. This is 1v2, Keen. What are we doing? This guy's absolutely insane, but he's getting away with it, absolutely. We'll be able to dash away. Deadly Flourish is going to slow him down, but I don't know whether you'd want to stop him from leaving, Hope. It was looking dicey.
Yeah, I just feel like that's why I was talking about earlier, the reasons why you would swap. I feel like it's actually a better situation for Gen.G because Flandre's having a lot of trouble into the Rakan and the Varus with unlimited sustain and the insane damage from the Varus, but the Jhin and the Alistair don't do anything to Cassante.
They can't stop him, and we've seen Cassante be one of the best lane swap absorb champions, even before lane swaps were massively nerfed, but we'd see them at level 1. This was Keen's life for like a year, right? And he's winning it this time. He's got so much practice with this, and the Lethality Varus with the Dirk in hand here is just going to smash Flandre there on the top side. The sustain you mentioned from those Rakan Qs is going to come through, and so they get to steal some of the jungle away, set up some of those deep wards there on the top side of the map. But Gen.G, control of both sides of the map right now feels fantastic as Grubs have spawned.
Yeah, Canyon looking to try and contest this. Full vision available to AL. Canyon walking on forward, should be able to watch this first one go down. We'll see whether that's all AL can get, although they are still in this pit. 4 versus 3 for the moment, but Ruler is moving over there. Flandre, level 7, does have Equalizer at the ready. This is a dangerous fight for Gen.G to take. As Ruler throws out the ulti, it's going to be met with Tarzan's flash. And Hope really speedran the curtains there. They were closed, and then they were opened, and then they were closed again pretty immediately.
Yeah, not the greatest fight setup there for AL. It's really desperate, but I think after Tarzan flashes, you know you're going to have to give at least 2/3 here of the Grubs, and taking a fight follow-up after that is just not going to be possible.
You were talking about this in the draft, Wolf, just giving over Varus essentially in trade for a Xayah ban. You're like, okay, we want to ban Xayah, we'll give you Varus. But Ruler, with his Varus, it feels like he's run the lane, and obviously Chovy's done a really good job in mid as well. So now they can just kind of roam the map as a 4-man unit and take whatever objective they want. Like, Hope playing this Jhin right now has 0 impact compared to the Varus in these team fights. And yeah, he was just being bullied essentially by Chovy and Duro, who weren't allowing him to do anything. So Gen.G get 2 Grubs, and they get the first Drake. So off to a great start there.
It's just the objective control that is so necessary for this Gen.G comp, but they are very strongly holding tightly onto in this early game, just through lane pressure alone. As Duro is on this controller here lurking, I don't think he'll find any opportunities, but does hit level 6 here. Can just get some deep vision on Tarzan's pathing. And that's going to be the end of that, but just going to wrap his way all the way around.
Yeah, this is looking a little bit weird.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little, I'm like, what's his plan?
He just wants to get as much information as possible. They do kill his ward immediately, though. As the lane assignments are kind of interesting. Chovy now laning up against Flandre towards that top side, as Equalizer was actually invested just a little while ago. Not entirely sure. I think it was probably just to eliminate a minion wave. As Duro is following Tarzan here towards the top lane. Chovy says hello to his former jungler from Griffin and does do a whole lot of damage. Snaps back to that soul. Flandre was just unable to really help out, so it's just a sacrifice of 50% of Tarzan's health bar. Thankfully has the King's Tribute to get that health back.
That Keen has into this Rumble works into the Azir as well, so he's actually just sitting here chilling going, well, I've got all this MR, it's hard for you to put a dent into me, so I can continue to trade with you. And Chovy is also just happy to trade into Flandre here because he can snap back when the Flame Spitter comes out, when the silence comes through, and just avoid that damage and take these aggressive trades. We're going to see that TP here from Shanks now as they try to swap away from him. We'll be able to catch the wave, but Gen.G have had so much vision on the top side of the map. Like, Duro can make those plays where he's just surfing through the jungle and dropping wards everywhere because he can see literally everything. There is no risk whatsoever to what he's doing. And Gen.G, look at the wards they have all over the map. Like, they have so many.
The top lane is insane. It's just a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the first time Gen.G have done this. I think there's a reason why their macro game is considered the best in the world. As Duro in a little bit of trouble here. He's got a lot of players on him.
The combo is Hope throwing down these bullets. Not quite going to land any, but they didn't need them because Tarzan has teeth, and he's able to take a chunk out of the Rakan. And that's first blood. It's kind of insane that it is 11 and a half minutes into the game, and I feel like there's been a lot of stuff that's happened, but that is the first kill that we've actually had.
It feels like a caster, Chris, but I feel like it's almost also this sort of caster explanation we gave, because he had so much vision topside, he can make those plays, right? He can be anywhere he wants. On the bottom side, not so much. They find him, they kill him, he's trying to get wards on both sides of the map, and he's punished.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I feel like Duro, sometimes on Rakan, you can feel immortal, right? Because your amount of mobility that you have is just insane, right? You can hop to allies, but he was alone, so he couldn't hop to allies. He used his W, and then he just got caught by the pillar, so you're just kind of out of options at that point. So Duro, you know, still very much a newer player compared to at least his teammates. And maybe a little bit of a rookie mistake there. Got to be careful about that. Still a very close game at this point, though.
Yeah, and I think holding onto the Flash, an interesting choice there as well. Not a whole lot to fight for right now, but a fight around the Herald, something like that, somewhere that a Rakan can get a whole lot of value in. So we're going to check this one out one more time. As, yeah, the Deadly Flourish placement just glorious there from Hope. Even if the bullets didn't necessarily land, it didn't matter.
He is able to deny the kill onto the Jhin. That movement was pretty good there, so it's still significant that that doesn't go over to Hope, because that's definitely what they would have rather had. It's not the end of the world that it goes over to a Trundle, still valuable, but that was well played by Duro. I think that's why he commits the ult there. It will be back up for the objective. Doesn't commit his flash, though. Knows that extra movement should be enough.
Yeah, and sometimes at tournaments, some players just, they have this ability to just, they're like a magnet. Like, all the kills go towards them, and it feels like Tarzan, he's always in the right place at the right time. Him and Flandre have been the big names from this team that we've been mentioning over and over, but Tarzan is just part of everything, right? He is the core of this team, and, you know, it's a little thing. It's just one kill onto a Rakan, but again, it's like this Trundle, you get that little bit of a fear in you that this Trundle's going to get super fed once again.
Yeah, and Kane's like, stop feeding the Trundle, man. Like, I want to be able to build my tank items. I want to be comfortable. And if this Subjugate gets too scary, then it's going to become a little bit of a problem. As Chovy here towards this bottom side of the map, dealing with Flandre, continuing to do so. As Tarzan was shadowing Shanks. Make sure that he can get this crash. Might even be able to get another plate.
We're trading plates top for mid, it looks like here, as you can see where Canyon is on the map right now. With 10 seconds until Dragon, I favor the position of Gen.G here. Diving, this is going to be so tricky into a Cassante. Flandre's is going to equalize here, but that should be a free Dragon. Let's see if King can survive, because Subjugate will come through, but he's still Cassante, he's still got Flash.
Yeah, let's see whether Showmaker's going to be talking about this one. 3 versus 1 is dangerous. He gets the all out, and he uses that to leave. Unfortunately, he brought Tarzan with him, and that guy is real scary and can put pillars up that wreck your day, and that is exactly what happens.
Maybe, though, the double if principle of, like, you lose somebody, you get the Dragon in return feels good, but if they get that whole turret with this Nashor's Tooth Zir, I think that might be a price that's a little bit too big to pay here for Gen.G.
Yeah, a bit of an issue. I think he pulled the Trundle over, so that was definitely a bit of a issue. I mean, they were kind of stacked on each other. But yeah, there's that first turret going down that you were talking about, Wolf. They're just going to get it essentially for free after that kill. So surging into the lead in terms of gold here is AG.AL. It's not a gigantic lead, but with, I believe it's Infernal Soul on the way, going to be feeling pretty good.
We're going to check it out on from Tarzan's perspective as he takes the Cassante ride and just flashes after him and eats him. Look at these mechanics, guys. There it is. Chomp.
I don't know if things would have been that different if he pulled Shanks, but I think that the Trundle was problematic, to say the least, in terms of the target he pulled over there on his attempt to escape. But with the turret going over and with 2 kills to 0, even though Gen.G have gotten all the objective feats of strength, it's just 1 kill now for feats of strength to go over to AL. So another significant factor that comes with getting that turret. So 2-dragon lead here for Gen.G. It's a Mountain Soul for their Cassante, so you're still feeling pretty good about that. We'll see, though, as it ends up being a lot of gold injected into this Azir.
Chovy, again, just kind of doing whatever he wants in this game. He hasn't been part of any of the action because there hasn't been a whole lot, but it does feel like whenever we're looking at him, he is doing a good job of bullying his lane opponent, but he's still 400 gold behind Shanks, who did pick up the kill. So going to have to deal with that. Obviously, now that he finally has his Bork, he becomes even more of a champion, does Chovy on the Yone.
It's looking pretty scary there as Tarzan once again sacrifices 50%, but of course what goes unbound in the soul department does have to go back to the soul. I think that's the saying. Maybe a little wordy. But not going to be too worried about it. Takes the crab. And here on the bottom side, Shanks continuing to push. 1 more kill, and that will be feats of warfare for AG.AL and some upgraded shoes to boot. Oh, that was not the pun that I was looking for. Take it away, Will. I think I need to time it.
Like you said, 1 more kill. As I was mentioning before, who knows when that's going to happen, though, as we won't have a fight really here for a while. 3 minutes until this dragon will spawn, and it's been a relatively quiet early game. There's no real pressure points on the top side of the map for Gen.G anymore. Herald will just be used here to try to secure this mid turret with the Varus wave clear that Ruler can provide. See if AL will be able to defend. They don't have equalizers, so I think this is just going to be Gen.G getting a turret in return.
Yep, there it is. Not going to be first turret or anything like that.
Oh, the pillar!
It's still there, and the pillar is going to annoy Shelly, and she just decides she doesn't want to crash into the turret.
Great play there from Tarzan.
Yeah, beautifully done.
But it was all a distraction, guys.
A cunning ruse?
They used it in mid, and look at where Canyon is. He's the guy who dropped it. He's in top. He's like, okay, I'm getting my vision. I'm making sure that Chovy can push the top lane and get that turret by himself. So they're going to get a turret eventually, although, as I say that, it does look like Chovy's trying to join in here onto this fight.
Oh, that's an exhaust immediately here as the charm comes down. Chains of Corruption. They really want to kill Tarzan, and guess what? They're going to do it. That's 1 kill to answer AG.AL now, only 2 away from getting the feats beforehand. Actually, kind of interesting race towards our feats of strength in this game as Chovy will be able to finish off this turret, and that gold advantage that Gen.G has is only going to surge further forward. Game is still extraordinarily close, but it feels like Gen.G starting to come alive.
They're starting to get back control of the map, right? Like Valdez was mentioning, you know, the charge didn't go off, but Chovy got the whole turret topside. They used Chovy's pressure there and the attempted defense of the turret to get deep vision into the red buff and then look for the fight there. And Gen.G just kind of end up getting 2 swings there in mid and top lane off of the Herald that didn't even crash. Still incredibly valuable. This is the oppressive macro Gen.G that we talk about so much that feels like hasn't been that relevant in this tournament. We haven't seen it too much, and it's only a small gold lead here. It's minuscule. And we're talking about 1,300 gold here, but Gen.G at the same time have really never given AL any quarter in this game. They've just constantly been in control of the tempo.
Yeah, it's very nice to see Gen.G getting right back on the horse after a little bit of a shaky series up against G2. I like what Arnold was saying on the stage earlier, how Chovy went back and he's like, we're not playing our game, guys. We're better than this. And maybe they've come in with that kind of fire and that energy for the grand finals here for EWC League of Legends. There's a ton on the line, obviously. And it's very nice for us to watch Gen.G at their full form because I think that's where we're going to get the best series.
It's been really hard for Hope to farm in this game, too. Look at how far behind he is in terms of Ruler's farm. Ruler just constantly clearing these ways.
Yeah, Tarzan feels like he's found an angle. They stand in front of the ulti, but Duro going to make his way down. It's the double charm to save his mid laner, and Kyle couldn't find the angle. Now he might be needing to press that ultimate button to keep himself alive, and I don't even know whether that's going to be enough, as the will is indeed broken. And in goes Canyon. He thinks he's found the angle. Still has the Bramble Smash. Uses it, has to get the heck out of there, as Duro is at least able to battle dance his way around. One knock-up onto Tarzan, and he has to flash to get out of the way of the chains of corruption. Keen's found his way in to see what the heck's going on, but he's a little bit late, as Gen.G, they take the one kill, and they look to answer it with a dragon.
This is such an important timing. We got the dragon up, we got the Otacon up right here, and they massively overextend to try to kill Chovy, who is Yone with flash. They're not able to do so, and AG.AL don't have their jungler.
Oh, the curtain call comes in though, and Canyon will be taken down. That's the feats of warfare to come in, as Hope misses the 4th bullet, but that may not matter, as the flash out from Keen shows the Gen.G. They just need to run. The harpoon comes in from Flandre, but there is still a turret down here towards the bottom side, and Gen.G should be safe for now, but are they actually able to fight for the Otacon? Yeah, 20 seconds on Canyon.
Is so critical, as you mentioned, Valdez. Chovy has TP, he's going to back here, and I mean, contesting this, I think, is just not realistic. Look at where the TPs are going. They're looking to actually get a top inner and that mid turret instead here. I think this is a wise call from Gen.G, given the game state here. Fortunately, Ruler doesn't have a big wave here, but can clear this one practically instantly. But watching the fight again, like you said, it's a Yone that they're collapsing onto. Already unbinds here, and that's why Shanks says, okay, I'm going in here. It looks to interrupt the ult. The pillar placement is good. They force the flash, but it's Duro who does all of the real heavy lifting here. Kyle gets charmed there on the last possible second on the ult, and Gen.G rotate over. This could have been a lot worse here for Gen.G if that play from Duro isn't as crisp.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Duro's there. I feel like AG.AL, though, the only way they get Chovy is if nobody's there and it's a 3-on-1, so a bit of a low probability look potentially. Does not work out for them. I guess towards the end of it all, it kind of does, because they do get that Otacon, but it is a 3rd Drake here for Gen.G, and that could be potential Mountain Soul on the way here in 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, and they do end up getting that damage done to the turret here on the top side. Okay, it was a little bit less damage than I expected. It was hidden there by the Rumble Portrait. I thought they got like half of it. Mid turret did go down though. Ruler was able to clear that one up, so they went for the double TP play there. They were able to get a lot of map control on the top side after this. But I think the Mountain Soul point is incredibly valuable with the lead that you already have here as Gen.G. And Keen is just going to be such a monster in this game.
Not to mention the fact that he built the Force of Nature.
Yeah, that's so rare.
That really, really interesting, because yeah, we don't see this item ever, but it's actually kind of good into the Rumble and the Azir. Of course, a lot of little magic damage happening all the time is how you stack it up real fast. It's not necessarily like the best statted magic resist item, but if you're ever going to build it, this seems like the place to do so. And having movement speed is always underrated, so maybe Keen is onto something here, as he's a little bit above half health for the minute. Gen.G here clearing out vision where they can, and setting up for a dragon that isn't spawning for another 2.5 minutes. Could just be to make sure that they can get this outer ring of turrets.
I mean, look at the vision they have on the top side. Still, Atlas, like, they have vision and the control ward there, the entry to the Krugs. They have deep vision there behind the red buff. Like, everything that Tarzan is doing is known. Like, they could see him here as he rotates through his jungle. So Ruler backs up, lets the wave push in mid. They get that bottom outer turret. Chovy can continue to pressure onto Shanks. And they just are trading, like, okay, when you guys are clear on that vision top side, we got the vision bottom. By the time you come to deal with that bottom vision, we're going to put that pressure back up top side. And this has kind of been the rinse repeat during these downtimes between objectives we've seen from Gen.G.
I've got a theory.
Yeah?
All right. So what if AG.AL are actually giving up Mountain Soul, because it'll give more defensive stats over to Gen.G, so it doesn't matter who Tarzan subjugates. He's going to get so many defensive stats.
Wow.
Just think about it for a minute.
Yeah, I think if you give me
Atlas here.
Yeah, if you give me like a 10-page paper by tomorrow on that, I'll consider your theory.
You know what? I think I'll pass. I don't know whether I could sell it if it's actually going to be documented. I'm happy to say it though to as many people who are willing to listen. It's all right. Going back, Gen.G, like we mentioned, I'm trying to figure out why they've been allowed to get so many dragons, but I think it was mainly because they prioritized that over the Otacon later on. So will it be the soul that's actually going to be picked up here in a minute's time for Gen.G? As right now the control of the map dictates that perhaps they can. But AL have been grouping and team fighting really, really effectively.
Yeah, it just feels like Gen.G have been winning in the macro game little by little. There have been a lot of plays around the map where like Chovy's getting the top lane turret, or they're able to put a lot of pressure on so that they can sneak away a dragon. I mean, they even got the 2 Void Grubs as well, so certainly a lot of little things going their way bit by bit in this game. We do have the Baron about to spawn, but I think this game just a bit too close, and obviously the Mountain Drake is going to be the more important objective right now in about 20 seconds.
Like I said before in the draft, like Gen.G can never let objective control go. Like they always have to be the ones who are defensively set up on it, sieged up on it, and they just always have been, like every single time. And I mean, once again, this Maokai could just keep everyone at distance, and AL have just been sitting back, losing vision, and letting Gen.G run the map, and that is just going to continue here. And when Ruler has this much vision to work with, and there's so hard to collapse on, look at how much damage he can do poke-wise here in the neutral. He just sits back and free fires, and Chovy can start the dragon up by himself, and good luck crossing that Nature's Grasp.
And Ruler has been getting every advantage from the leads that Gen.G have put together. He has the biggest lead in the game.
Look at Duro's angle.
This Mountain Soul is just gone. Even though the Chains of Corruption don't do anything, there is nothing more that they can get done. As Kyle has to ult, but he's down so incredibly low. They're trying to play it defensively, but Keen's going forward. Ruler untouched, but Keen gonna have to get himself out of there as the Mountain Soul comes in. And now Gen.G are one step closer to immortality in this game.
You know, there's not a lot of things that are free in life, but that Mountain Drake, that Mountain Soul was so free for Gen.G. They had immense vision control. There was no entry for AG.AL at all. The Maokai they had to run into with all the treants, it was just way too much for them.
They had a Cassante blocking the entrance. They had a Nature's Grasp at the ready. They had Chains of Corruption, which didn't land. They had Duro on the angle, so he can set up a charm to deny any entry. You were just never going to get close. And by the way, the whole time, Ruler is just chucking damage at you while you were considering how you're going to approach. He just hits you again. 3-item lethality. Varus, 2,000 gold ahead of his opposition. And Gen.G just hunkered down and said, that's mine. 4 Drakes to 0 in this one. And even though Otacon went over, it's a relatively low pedal game. We're looking at Chovy a whole level up on his opposition here in Shanks. It feels like Gen.G are the ones who are holding the Otacon.
And as far as, you know, the satisfaction of this game for those of us that really don't like Jin, it's really up there. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a tough one here for Hope as Chovy going aggressive. He can snap back. Tarzan once again down to 50%. That has been Chovy's hobby so far this game, and even going further and further. Keen on a ward, but that is not a sight that AL wanted to see. This Baron down so low, but that pulverize was amazing, and Tarzan flashes in and steals the Baron. Can they keep themselves alive, though? That's the question. As Tarzan utilizing that subjugate to keep him alive for an extra 40-odd seconds, maybe. Keen diving on forward. The Emperor's Divide connects onto the Rakan as the all-out to bring Hope to the Death Chamber. Doesn't quite work out just yet, although Chovy does send the Emperor of Shurima to the Death Chamber himself. So Gen.G, they keep 3 alive, but it is only a few that die on the side of AG.AL, and they get a successful steal.
It's a very messy fight both ways, I can say. I feel like Kyle did a fantastic job getting in there, and it looked over-aggressive almost, but he created so much space and a big distraction, knocking 3 guys up and allowed Tarzan a way to get into the pit and steal it away. And the kills are very similar in this one. It just got so messy towards the end, and it's a big win for AG.AL.
Now, Canyon is like 5 seconds away from his ultimate, so there's some hesitation here. Do we pull off completely, or can we turn on this? Because the Maokai ultimate is the best way for them to buy space. They still have Chains of Corruption, but it's not the same setup they had on Dragon here. Kyle doesn't hesitate, though. He goes in. Then you see the Duro peel. You see the Chains of Corruption. Equalizer here. Would have been great if there was follow-up. And unfortunately for Hope, he's just trying to get damage done here at the end. Keen does get on top of him here. Luckily, though, for him, he does survive. He and Flandre will be able to keep the Barons here, so it's not that they got nothing out of this, as he barely survives. Look at that, down to like single-digit health. And AL are just going to try to make the best out of this Baron now. It's their one way back into this game.
Oh, Chains of Corruption going to connect this time around as 50% of Shanks' health just goes in the blink of an eye. Flandre almost loses 100, though, as meanwhile, on the back end of the fight, it's Hope that's just being thrown around like a rag doll. Kyle going to get the same treatment. And AL, I mean, it was a decent attempt. They managed to steal away the Baron, and this is not the result. This is not what we wanted to see.
I think this may be the beginning of the end of this one, Atlas. Gen.G winning the fight here, punishing the siege. AL had one chance, one Baron to work with. They wanted to make the most of it, but now they are dead.
Yeah, flash forward there from Chovy is going to seal Flandre's fate. And this Rumble performance a little bit different to that of what we saw at MSI. This time Gen.G able to deal with it, and they're looking to push through and take game number 1. Shanks going down low as there is the attempt to knock up from Duro. It is going to get the Zonya's out of Shanks, but Keen is just having the time of his life, manages to take down the Azir, and Chains of Corruption flying around, and they can go to Narnia. They don't need that to do the damage. As Kyle, fresh out of the death chamber, but he's going to be going back. He left something there, I think. Needed to go pick up his keys. Is now Tarzan going to fall as well. Nexus turrets on the ground, and Gen.G will win game number 1 here at the EWC Grand Final for League of Legends.
Absolute masterclass here in this first game. Just great stuff. Gen.G is back in, seeming pretty likely at this point, to be honest. I do really like what AG.AL have drafted in this game number 2. I think it's very aggressive. It allows them to grab hold of this series and fight it on their terms. The one big thing on the other side for me that I'm scared of if I'm AG.AL is Chovy's Galio. We were talking about how strong he was up against G2 just yesterday. It's a classic. It's a legendary pick for Chovy. There have been so many huge plays, even right here on this part of the map, for Chovy. The flash, like 5-man taunt that he got in that one game a long time ago. He's just fantastic on it. And I was going to do a segment earlier actually on Gen.G and the way that they love to team fight, and it really came down to Chovy moving in and out of vision and making the aggressive Galio plays work. So. A lot of onus on him, but he can handle it.
Yep, and you were talking about his clear. It's terrifying for exactly the same reason, right? It's fear the cross map and fear the rotation that Chovy is so good at. Him and a lot of his other mid lane counterparts in the LCK known for that sort of style of play, and something that Chovy has really developed over the last few years.
I'm not, it's not the type of draft where I feel like the Bard ult is necessarily going to be game defining. It certainly can stall things out or turn a 5v5 into 5v3 for a minute for you to get into position, do some additional damage. But the ability to rotate around the map with a magical journey, I think, is super valuable for a low-range composition like what Gen.G's is. Sure, the Senna will have a lot of range later on, but a lot of these fights, you're trying to get your melees into position to threaten that Jinx or get to the back line, force the Enemy to use her stun defensively. So that's what I'm most looking forward to here for Duro on this Bard pick. There's a lot of inherent risk with this pick, though, because if you fall behind, you're a squishy support that's going to struggle to get vision into this dive pop with the Vi that will just blow you up if you ever show your face. If you ever have face check, if you ever try to go towards an objective you don't have control of, there just really isn't a recourse for the Bard that's going to get blown up because he's so squishy.
Yeah, sort of does feel a bit unforgiving as we have a look at where these lanes are situated right now. Flandre on this Sion having a real good time at this point in the game. I believe we saw this matchup previously and it didn't look quite this good for the Sion here at EWC, but still very, very early into the game, so things could certainly turn around for Keen, where he's going to be having a bit of damage onus on himself. Those are 2 items he needs to get to as soon as possible to make sure that he is going to be a threat heading towards that back line. And you guys have been singing the praises of AL's comp, and I just kind of want to echo it. I love how well it sort of bridges towards late game with the last few picks that they lock in, because it was quite late that you got the Jinx and the Sion into this composition, which allows them to teamfight really effectively, just front to back into Gen.G with their sort of fancy combo composition that they have here. Will certainly be still difficult, but it's just AL playing some pretty classic League of Legends and setting themselves up for it with some pretty good picks for the situation. Here's the lane swap. This is what we've got very used to.
Yeah, look at the timing of this. Hope catches this gigantic wave. It's just kind of almost funneled into him, right? It's like the Sion sets up a giant pushing wave into him.
Right after he gets a cull. He's
right after he gets the cull.
Into free cull stacks.
Yeah. Oh, God. And he's just farming up there. He's having a great time. There's no threat from an early game Ambessa, of course. So these another early swap comes out from AG.AL. This one I feel like does make a bit more sense. I think you can absolutely bully the Ambessa a lot more with something like a Jinx compared to a Jhin into Cassante like last game.
Yeah.
And you've got Sion, who never cares about anything.
Yeah, so. And also if you're farming alongside, then you're absolutely fine, because Jinx wants to scale and scale and scale. You've got a Sion that's going to be getting infinity health as the game goes on. And so definitely a much better scenario. I'm glad you bring that up because that is very, very important. Not going to feel as much of that pressure in these side lanes as Gen.G will answer the swap now.
Yeah, I mean, you could have left the Senna into the Scion and just sit there and chill and stack, but you're not going to get any sort of advantages, and the Jinx is just going to get such a big advantage if you leave her alone like that, that it's super frustrating. And with the tempo they got with that fast swap and the call buy, they can go, oh, your Senna's back topside? Well, we've already reswapped bottom lane, and that's just going to continue. This is part of why we're seeing Unsealed Spellbook taken for supports these days, because sometimes you're going to need that teleport to get back and catch the tempo. Won't necessarily be the case in this game, but this time AL are the ones running the show, at least in this early game, whereas we saw that for Gen.G the previous game around, as Shank's going to get taunted.
Yeah, Chovy doing a bit of damage here. Otherwise, not too much else happening, and Shanks able to find a few extra Pyroblasts. With Chovy moving forward, I'm not sure about this, because these autos are raining down on top of him.
He really wanted to push that wave in. He's not really going to be able to. Meanwhile, AG.AL is just taking a free Dragon. This is, of course, after the reswap of the lanes. They have their bottom laners in the bottom lane, and so they're able to have that pressure on the Dragon and take the objective this time. So AG.AL this time in control of the pacing of this game.
Yeah, I'd be just really going to get a ton of value out of this. They're going to get a plate here as well for Hope off of this wave, and Keen just really has no recourse here. He hits level 6, but he's playing into a Braum, so the all-in just isn't a thing. He's not going to be able to do anything with that. You can see he's stunned by the concussive blows here already. And even with Kyle sitting on level 4, I just don't think Keen is going to be able to find an angle. And sure, on the top side, there's a little bit of push for Ruler and Duro, but it's just not the same amount of value into this Scion. He's stacking for free, but Jinx is stacking money and stacking a Drake.
Yep, Flandre also stacking himself. So there you go. There are sort of stacks all over the place here. As Canyon looking to steal away some jungle, will do so. Tarzan just going to move out of the way. Bit of an El Clasico as far as the LCK history is concerned.
Wait a minute.
Canyon and Tarzan, as Shanks could be in trouble. The exhaust comes down, and you know what he does? The walk quickly strategy, utilizing that phase rush to get him to safety. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was a bit overzealous on the play. It's Annie who's got stuns, has flash and phase rush here.
Duro just really wanted to cycle through the summoners. It was fine.
Yeah, I guess so. At the end of the day, they don't spend a whole lot to do that. But yeah, unless you've got heaps of CC, you're not going to be locking down this Annie anytime soon. And it was just Galio at that point in time. Canyon is level 6 at least, so maybe he can look for a play soon.
Shanks was also so well positioned there. Like, he wasn't really vulnerable. You know, Canyon ults, he just walks under the turret, doesn't care. There's a really opportunistic attempt there by Gen.G. And if this is like a Leona or a hard engaged support, maybe you could have made something happen with Chovy looking for the taunt, but instead Shanks is just like, all right, nice try, I suppose.
Yep, and so the result of this early game is one objective, one dragon going over to AG.AL, and Gen.G being able to utilize some of these swaps in order to get a bit of a farm advantage. That is about all we can really say. Most of that money is on Keen. It was done well as this Ambessa, but we know Sion doesn't necessarily need that much money. He will still just be a body that they can put in front of a Jinx to hopefully soak the damage so she can kill everyone, right? Like, we'll still do what it says on the tin, as we like to say. Void Grubs have popped up here as Canyon looking to get something done here towards this top side. Paranoia at the ready.
Yeah, I'll say that this Nocturne at this point in the game, you don't have a lot of setup. You can't really gank the Annie. You cannot do anything with the Bard in the top lane. So you're just level 6 and you're kind of just hanging out. Because you can't gank the Scion, obviously. So he would love to do the objective, but AL, again, they're in control of this river at the moment, and Duro's just magical journeying away from this fight for now.
If they can get in there, though, this could be a pretty good angle for Chovy. Canyon can place that gargoyle wherever he wants.
I mean, I just don't think Gen.G really need to fight for these grubs at such a risky point in the game, because it could just open things up super hard against them. And if they get grubs, like, it's an Ambessa. If the Scion gets grubs or the Annie gets grubs, it's an Annie or a Scion, right? I like playing it slow like this, looking for the later TP here from Chovy, and just slow playing it. I thought for a moment they were going to try to hard force with a Nocturnal, which I think would have been a huge mistake. Just try to win the war of attrition with the Senna. Even in the early game, you can actually kind of just chip away at those health bars and win out, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Late TP here from Shanks, though. A bit late for the contest, but they could look for a big stun.
Well, Magical Journey just gets you out so comfortably.
Yeah.
So that teleport does come in. Shanks makes it over to the top side, but it is only one measly grub available here for AG.AL. So Gen.G, after this one is finally taken, they will even out even the feat of strength count here between the two squads. And the gold is practically even as well. And so you look at the teams that have a lot of extra scaling, and that's both of these teams. Hyper carries both of these teams. And so I'm feeling like this is an even one at this stage of the game. Gentlemen?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Atlas. I think you're onto something here.
It's close.
It's a very close game.
I'm making the hot takes over here.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just don't think grubs are that important for either team that much. So, blowing the game and tossing it, flipping it, basically at this point would just be such a silly choice to make, especially with Gen.G kind of slowly getting control there. It was a late TP from, to enter the fight from Shanks there, and didn't end up leading to a fight because of the Magical Journey. You can see what the value of the Bard is there. But because he commits that, he loses a plate here bottom side right. We'll lose some farm because he doesn't have the TP anymore. Keen getting an advantage there. So small victories here for Gen.G. They have a very slight lead. But this game is by no means really in their favor right now. We're going to have to wait and see what that first team fight looks like. The second Drake is up here. You can see Gen.G are slowly grouping down towards that bottom side of the map. Chovy does not have TP to join the fight, but he can, of course, if he can traverse some of the map, ult in.
See whether he does do that. I love that little fight towards the top lane. It really did epitomize this whole game, which is pretty much meaningless damage and jostling for position. As Keen does get his fangs into Shanks here. Does do a decent amount in that trade. The Eclipse has been completed. A big spike, actually, for Keen on this Ambessa. Freshly teleported into this lane with that power spike. And Gen.G thinking that they can utilize that to try and take down this Dragon Ruler. Not able to quite find the snare, but the Dragon, it
double
goes
smite.
down. Yeah, double smite working out really nicely here as in goes Tarzan. And off go the lights. The public execution to avoid the cease and desist. And first blood goes over to Canyon, and it's not going to end there as the Braum shortly to follow. Canyon looking to continue this fight. His feats of warfare is Keen in the backline, and Gen.G, they just tear them apart. Chovy wasn't even there.
They didn't need Chovy at all. It was just insane the way that Gen.G turned that fight around. I mean, you were just talking about the item spikes. Nobody's got an item here on the side of AG.AL. It was an incredibly forced fight from our Chinese team. And on the side of Gen.G, they just wait, they turn off the lights, and the turn in the fight is unbelievable. Keen is the guy.
Man.
He pulls the jungler away. Duro then isolates him. Duro secured the Dragon with a smite before this, and it felt like AL just felt forced to make something happen here after giving the objective. They're like, well, we just can't simply give this up for free, but I think you just had to be willing to do so. Remember, Shanks lost half his health bar to the Eclipse in the bottom lane just moments before. They were by no means in a position to contest that. A huge mistake to go for that call, disrespecting Keen's reaction time as he goes unstoppable, looks for the exact re-engage he wants there. And then Duro catches the Vi with his ult. I mean, how more well played could that have been for Gen.G, and how much more risky could it have been for AL?
Well, like, AL could have hit, like, Tarzan doesn't need to go for the only guy that has Unstoppable in his kit, right? Like, that's just, it's a little bit of a mistake. There was the only target presented right there, but just because it's the only target doesn't mean it's the right one.
Sometimes you gotta walk away. Sometimes you gotta say, it's unfortunate we lost this Drake, but we're gonna have to make a play elsewhere, and AL, we're just not willing to do that.
Yeah, and I really feel like AG.AL had a lot of tools in their kit in some of these team fights. They have so much great engage, but as you mentioned, Max, you can't use it onto the Fed Ambessa.
The one guy!
The one guy who's just going to turn it around. And that's what the Nocturne does, right? If they overextend, you turn off the lights, you make it really confusing, and then the counter engage comes in so easily. This is not great.
He's the one guy, and he is, well, going to get an ulti down, but that's 4 people, Kane. What did he mean by this?
Tibbers was there
I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, sorry, 5 people. Sorry, 5 people. Gen.G get a plate for it though. That's the trade. I'm going to say that's a trade in the southerly direction.
I feel like this was a good collapse there from AG.AL, but at the same time, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal for the side of Gen.G. Keen didn't have flash there. He's super mobile, thought he could get out, as we are going to see a Galio TP top to get the minions there.
Yeah, that's a red dot TP. That's not an aggressive TP.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine.
Yeah, this is going to be Flandre taking the opportunity to back here. He has a Scion after all. So money was picked up in the mid lane. Like you said, it's not an even exchange in terms of where the money went there. It was a big shutdown for Shanks onto Keen. But they're going to need a lot more than that. Just a pick on the Ambessa before anything is really relevant. Like, they couldn't turn it into an objective fight isn't going to matter. But still, every little piece of gold you can get is significant.
Very true. Once again, Keen just going to be face-checking a brush and loses out on that trade against Flandre. But Flandre not going to be able to offer enough in order to deter him from continuing to lane. So it should be fine here for the Ambessa as he moves down to put pressure on the bottom side. 1.5k is going to be the resulting lead here, but one objective away from feats of strength here for Gen.G. That will be a big deal. Those buffs do not go anywhere. Those shoes will be available for them as Ruler with his Static Shiv just going to park himself in this mid lane from now on. Make sure that the center is continuing to get these stacks. We can see 40 already accrued here by the 15-minute mark, as Duro might just be straight up dead. He flashes, he magically journeys, and he's unfortunately now stuck inside the pit. Chovy could press his R button, and he does get the Cosmic Binding down. Kyle now in trouble as Ruler over the wall, doing so much work. The Magical Journey is up again. I'm sure, never mind, it's not. It's a Magical Journey to the Death Chamber, and Duro just with a bit of egg on his face. Another one of these bards that just not looking super hot right now.
I mean, every single win that AL gets has a return by Gen.G somewhere else.
It's all a bait.
Maybe that was the grand plan.
That's first turret, and that is feats of strength going over to Gen.G. So kind of worth a little.
Yeah.
I think if he gets out, it feels very worth.
I feel silly. I shouldn't have been talking down to Duro. He knew exactly what he was doing.
But at the end of the day, I mean, it's still going to be probably a turret to go down here on the top side for AL that will be able to get some of this money. And it just took so long to kill, but like Gen.G get 2. It's the macro game again, just like game 1 here, where Gen.G, yeah, maybe they give up something small, but they get something even larger.
The amount of objectives that were just bought by Duro being a little bit of a silly Billy in a Herald pit was kind of nutty.
Genius maneuver.
Yeah, something like that.
He's just on another level. We just do not get it. Look at this.
We're not going to quite get the charge, but turret also not going to help out towards Kyle here.
I'm pretty surprised, to be honest, that they commit the Herald top because they got the top turret for free, right? Like, they were going to just get it naturally, and then they wanted to double down because Dragon's up, which, by the way, also goes to Gen.G with the bottom side control
also,
they had.
Shielding and healing with this composition, actually kind of legit.
They could have just tried to transition that topside play into a mid Herald drop to pull Gen.G off of the Dragon or look for some chip damage to the turret. Instead, they just fully sent it topside, and then Duro's like, well, I mean, I do have this really cool ult, and I'm just not even going to let you get the charge. So very low value play, unfortunately, for AL, again, in comparison to what Gen.G got on the map.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys were watching the first series of the day, which I'm sure you two guys were.
We were here, yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible how Kerio was able to just neutralize so many of the plays of G2 with his Bard, and I feel like Duro, obviously, you know, the bait play into the Rift Herald pit, maybe not on purpose, but it worked out for Gen.G, and also he's doing the same thing, right? He's gonna have his ultimate for these hard engages from AG.AL. He has the Redemption. The Chemtech Soul is coming in. They're gonna be stacking those. The heal from the Redemption is gonna be huge, and from the Senna as well. It feels like Duro's game is kind of panned out. He knows exactly what he has to do in this game. As long as he doesn't get caught out in those weird spots, again, he should be just fine and in a great spot to help out his team.
Yep, Ruler also in a really good position right now. Rapid Fire Cannon now completed, does have the Swifties done as well, so actually a lot safer than he was previously with all the extra movement speed, what from his 2 first items and the shoes. As Flash actually has to be invested here by Hope, because he would have been set up for the Cosmic Binding after that ulti wears off. So Gen.G really scaring AG.AL right now.
That's your main target. You know, you were hitting the nail on the head. You're thinking exactly the same thing I was. Like, Ruler's on 2 items now. He's stacking really well. He's at 56 here at 18.5 minutes. Now your Jinx opponent doesn't have Flash.
Ooh, Spell Shield not quite working out here as Canyon going to be very early ulting. Heroic entrance to come down here as Canyon getting into that backline. And there's a public execution. The Bard is dead yet again, but they trade it for the buy here. Ruler not quite able to auto attack though in this fight as the Winds of War are so scary. And Keen wanting to kill even more of these AG.AL members. But they are going to be playing it real slow, actually letting them kite back and just moving towards the next objective on the map, which will be Arakan spawning in a minute's time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, you know, there wasn't any objective on the map. Both these teams are sending all 5 of their members to join this fight. It feels like finally AG.AL are stepping up to Gen.G, who very aggressively try to take control of the map with their vision, as we saw in Game 1. And now we got Shanks in trouble.
He really is. Justice Punch going to connect as Ruler doesn't quite find the snare, but it doesn't matter because he finds the auto attacks, and that is going to be Chovy locking that kill down. They have overloaded the top side. Chovy takes a lot of damage, but they'll get another turret, and then they can move over to this Arakan. It's going to be up in 23 seconds.
The truth of the matter is, and we talked about this a lot in the draft, is it's a Sion on the other side, so he doesn't have agency to try to make a cross map.
I love that
Kyle.
sign. It said revenge for T1, pick Bard, 3-0.
There you go.
But like, if you have Kyle and Flandre going, okay, they're stacking top, let's make a play there. With other champions, maybe you can actually stop Keen there. Maybe you can get something done. Maybe if he's not 1,500 gold ahead as well, but they just don't get anything in return. And this is these exchanges we keep seeing with Gen.G where they heavily commit to a play and there's a trade, but their trade is a massive trade up. Even this play here where it's a support for jungle trade and they end up winning out on the health bars so significantly that it's hard for AL to make any play afterwards. And the Gen.G fans are loving the dominance we have seen so far. This game was relatively close, but now 4,000 gold the advantage is Gen.G set up for Arakan.
Yep, that MVP discussion, I think it's feeling a little bit more Keen favored as we're heading through this series. This guy has been playing so well all tournament, but also, I mean, I had Duro there as like a dark horse as far as MVP was concerned, but I think there's no taking away from Keen after this game unless something crazy happens in the next one, or the one after that, or the potential one after that. If AG.AL are able to grab a cheeky victory here or there. This game, not over yet, but feeling very much in Gen.G's hands for now. Arakan has taken many teams, though. And so it might claim Gen.G here unless they're very, very careful. Keen getting his ducks in a row here towards his bottom side as far as the wave is concerned. And AG.AL, will they be able to get an entry? And will Tarzan be able to achieve the steal? This is indeed started.
Shanks is basically the main character for setting up that first pick here for Hope to get the reset. But Gen.G have all of their ultimates and they have a Nocturne composition. It's really tough for AG.AL to play this up, but they can't just walk away and go, well, we'll side lane. Not with this composition. So Gen.G really have them here between a rock and a hard place. I don't use that phrase too much anymore, but like, what do you do, Kyle?
Well, you get taunted just a little bit here. He throws out the ulti. The door has worn off, but it did its job. And so Kyle is going to be alive, but maybe the Arakan is not, as Chovy just being a bodyguard here alongside Duro.
Feels like
Tarzan finding the brush, and yeah, I don't, like Chovy's so incredibly tanky. They're just not letting Tarzan get over here. It is still relatively healthy, and into the backline goes Flandre, but they hold him at bay. It's Canyon that's dealing with it. He gets scared. It's now the Dawning Shadow to lock down the Braum, and Keen just goes golden with the help of the Tempered Fate, and now they're in the blender. Now they're taking down an AL and just getting decimated. Fight after fight here in Game 2.
Oh my goodness, that could not have gone better for Gen.G if they had asked for it. That was incredible. Keen once again sets it up right onto Kyle. The follow-up from the Nocturne and the Galio is there, and Duro's ultimate perfectly timed for Chovy to taunt them all and knock them down.
These Gen.G keep-away comps are just so insane. We saw it with the Maokai last game, but look at this. They deny Flandre entry. Hope is so far away from any of these targets. So Kyle gets caught here, suppressed, right? The follow-up Galio ult on top of the Tempered Fate means double taunt, and then Hope, guess what? Now that he's isolated, he is destroyed. Sure, he gets one kill in exchange, but the whole team is wiped when he's excited. Down he goes. It's just Gen.G crushing them, dominating them. The combos that you were asking for, Atlas, are we going to have to see them? It's going to be a little bit trickier to pull this comp off than Game 1. And the answer is Gen.G 100% can pull it off.
And I have to say, as far as compositions that utilize Tempered Fate well, This is a really good one, right? Like the Galio lands, you see doesn't get the knockups, but then you are freely able to position the easiest taunt of your life for after they get out of that stasis. The setup here, if you can hold them in position, is just insane.
And they don't even start the fight off with the Nocturnal. Most Nocturne comps start that way. They end it that way. You have no peel anymore, Hope. I'm just going to go right on top of you and kill you. The fight is already over. And Gen.G now looking for soul point here. And taking Otacon, that felt impossible, but this, they won't even try.
No. Yeah, I feel like the Braum in this composition was meant to try to help the Jinx not get absolutely bullied like that, but I feel like when you have so many abilities and champions that just go over the top of the Braum and do not care at all about the Braum, like think about the Galio, the Nocturne, you're not even interacting with the champion really outside of being in melee range. It just feels like that Braum is falling very short. Maybe they should have gone for something a bit more aggressive just to really all in on that engaged composition. But yeah, you guys were talking about it. I mean, a lot of these champions go both ways. The Bard sets up either the defensive ultimate or it sets up the Galio perfectly. Same with both the Galio and the Nocturne themselves.
Yeah, and the start of that fight as well, just to go back to it again, like Canyon's spell shield to make sure that Sion is completely worthless. It's like they just have every answer for what AG.AL are trying to do in this game, and it's making things really, really difficult for the LPL squad. 5,000 gold plus is going to be the advantage here as, yep, teleport to come in. Tempered Fate doing nothing this time as there is the heroic entrance to also not find the angle, but in goes Keen, and Hope is dead. Flandre now just getting destroyed, finds a nice double knockup, but Keen is just running amok. They are way too distracted in that backline, and even though a whole bunch of buttons go missing, it does not matter. Gen.G is still just going to wander over to a Baron.
I mean, AG.AL is just trying to fight for Prio, and they're losing control of top side. Toby's pushing their Shanks. It's like, I got a TP top to defend my turret. The second he goes, Keen teleports on the flank, and he's like, you guys want to contest for Prio? I am right into your backline, and Hope dies a third time in this game, blown up, unable to get excited, unable to be that scaling Jinx that their comp so desperately needs, and Gen.G will take a Baron.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Duro's double binding in that backline after the flash from Hope, it really just snuffed out the hope of AG.AL in that team fight. And yes, at this point, you know, Gen.G, they pick up the Baron. They're very far ahead, but this was kind of the last hope of AG.AL this fight. They try to throw everything at Hope, who does have flash, but look at this, flash double binding, and then Keen from the left with his own TP gets the perfect angle after Kyle sets him up.
You know what would have been really nice is an Annie to peel there, but he went to the top lane and he was not there as Duro
is very dead. Yeah, Canyon is going to press his R button as well as Mega Cone, thankfully, is going to be here. Shout out to you, Valdez. Utilizing that one for the disengage, but Duro wasn't able to do so. It feels like a bit of Duro giveth and taketh away in this game, and I think the positives do outweigh the negatives. As we have a look at the gold, it is cresting 8,000 at 27 minutes. As there is the engage onto Canyon. He's taking a fair bit of damage for Ruler as well. Oh my god, the stacks are really getting higher as Hope is looking for the reset, but he doesn't quite get there. The zap isn't going to land, and now Ruler is dealing with a teddy bear whilst also just murdering them. Redemption comes down, there's the flash in, and Keen says, thanks very much, buddy. I'll take the MVP now as he picks up the triple kill after all of Ruler's hard work. And I think Gen.G are going to probably add a Nexus to that one.
Well,
I think that's enough response. Ruler
is 1v4ing plus Tibbers, not caring, kiting it out, waiting for Keen to find that ult angle. He has flash as well. And so close to an excited Jinx were so many of those moments, but it just wasn't meant to be. And Gen.G, their most dominant series of the tournament so far, maybe the last one, the one where they lift the trophy, now up 2-0.
Yeah, this is the best that they've looked all tournament long. And Gen.G, one Nexus turn and a Nexus away from winning this, as there is the route onto Tarzan. Ruler is going to be able to take that one. Tempered Fate just to single out Shanks, as we have Senior Bear Tibbers, but unfortunately it hasn't done enough, as it's a triple for Ruler this time. The Quadra comes in, and he'll be able to take down the Nexus after one-upping Keen, at least after the last little skirmish. Gen.G poised to pick up the title. LCK unless they can prove us wrong here in this third game. It is do or die. Their key on the line. And Gen.G, as far as the club championship is concerned as well, they can rocket themselves to the top of those standings. Absolutely massive, not only for the League of Legends team, but for the organization as a whole. Because you have to remember, the Esports World Cup is more than just League of Legends. So support's going to be meeting here towards the top side, which is interesting that they both had exactly the same idea at the same time. Maybe just some supportal combat. They agreed. Okay, top alcove. Let's go 1v1.
That recall animation threw me for a loop. I thought perhaps he was going to look for the dredge. I mean, Keen is closer.
Well, he's just gone and gets the ward down. Oh, the last. Yeah, it does get it. Okay, there we go.
Something interesting to point out, we have seen almost all of our supports go for the Unsealed Spellbook, but Duro on the Nautilus, understanding that this champ, if you don't have Aftershock, you just kind of go in and die, has elected not to go for the Unsealed Spellbook. I think that's definitely a good choice, especially into what you're looking at on the opposite side.
Remember the Glacial Augment when it came in the first time? We had so many Nautiluses just explode over and over again.
It both makes you powerful into the types of ways you could get caught, and it's a safe defensive tool into AG.AL, but it also empowers your engages and your setup for the RE composition that Gen.G are running. So makes a ton of sense. I feel like even though everyone is running Unsealed Spellbook, there are situations where you just have to buck that trend and go, what's good for my champ, what's good for my comp. I'm going to move away from what's overall the meta and focus really in on what this game looks like, what this draft looks like for me.
And it's press the attack Renekton. This is, like, we did see a little bit of shenanigans with the Electrocute up against Aurora just because you want to go in for bursty trades. I believe that was Ambessa that did it. This is press the attack Renekton, which with some help from Tarzan, Flandre will be doing a lot of damage. It's Kyle going aggressive, but the Shattering Strike is going to miss here as they hit level 2. Still, Duro gets a lot of use out of his Aftershock as he makes his way out, and Gen.G a little bit late on that level 2 themselves.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I feel like Duro not totally respecting that, but as you mentioned, he wanted to go in for the Aftershock. Took a bunch of damage, still has some potions. Definitely taking a look at that top lane and watching Keen just bully as we did expect. Looks like Tovi's doing a good job in mid at the same time in terms of the health trades so far. Looks like Shanks, though, will be able to get a push and go for a back here. Definitely looking towards Canyon to try to hit level 6 as fast as possible and link up with Tovi. We have seen Gen.G winning a lot of these early games and getting a bunch of tempo and kind of controlling the pace. We've said that a lot today. Well, see if they can do it again.
Bit of aggression absolutely everywhere, but it's Kyle taking the worst end of it. Down to about 250 here as Gen.G stand their ground.
And Duro still has heal. They actually need to be careful about a re-engage. Like Ruler and Duro double flash plus the heal. If another Gatling gun gets fully channeled like that, you are just out of luck in this lane. As they hit level 3, will be matched. And that's the end of that as Tarzan comes over Ruler and Duro, not knowing where he is, going to play respectfully and back away. And this top lane is a huge issue, though, as Keen just keeps grasp stacking and keeps chunking Flandre out. And this is a prio lane they expected to get, right? That's why you draft Renekton in a comp like this. And it is unfortunately just absolutely not going to work out as Canyon's coming over. Flandre is low, no Fury.
2v1 underneath this turret. We'll see whether Flandre can get enough of his health back. Oh yeah, without the Fury, it's really, really difficult. But he does slice and dice, and that'll get him to safety. Keen didn't want to be the one that tanked up that turret to start things off. But he does get a Demolish proc. That is going to be plate gold. And I don't think it's too bad. Canyon was looking for a back anyway. The full clear was completed. And yeah, Keen is like, no, Flandre, you're not allowed to approach this minion wave.
Yeah, you can see how he stacked the wave so that it would push into him. So it kind of forces Flandre to move up, and he has help from his jungler. Keen going to spot this and just flash away. So that's actually pretty good here for Flandre and Tarzan. They're able to immediately clap back with a bit of a flash takeaway from Keen, as here's Duro hanging around mid. But
yeah, they're going to swap top here, and it's going to be Keen heading down to the bottom lane. He has enough time to get there without TPings, which is huge for him. As, you know, supports join.
Mid lane, yep.
Yeah, supports join here as the lane swaps commence. They don't really need each other. As Kyle going to get charmed.
Yeah, not going to be able to crash down out of this one, actually, and he doesn't have a lot of options remaining. Still not enough damage here. between Duro and Chovy at this stage of the game, so he will be able to make his way out and even holds on to the flash.
I don't know.
Canyon off to the side is looking to take down these Raptors.
I don't know if this aggression is over yet. I think Gen.G can continue to put the pressure on here. Canyon's going to get these Raptors at least, and Kyle's low health bar here is such a problem. And also, we did see Flandre TP top, so TP advantage to Keen right now. Gen.G has so much agency.
Information advantage here, as Kyle wasn't actually seen, but another Shattering Strike goes wide. Kyle actually struggling a little bit here in this early game. You can see there are some wobbles that he has to get out. These Shattering Strikes that we're so used to seeing land from this guy just haven't been hitting the mark, as Ruler just really happily going through his history book as far as the teams that he's won titles on. Samsung Galaxy certainly being one of them.
Yeah, the 2017 above that. Shanks now getting chunked out. It feels like, especially if the Ahri is just getting guaranteed charms. That one wasn't a guaranteed charm, but he was just able to land it. But if you got the Nautilus nearby, you have to respect the damage, even with no items here in the early game. And Kyle, unfortunately, was not able to do that. So a lot of tempo did go over to Gen.G in those early trades. Still pretty even, though. I mean, AG.AL have their bottom lane down here. We see Tarzan immediately running at the Dragon. Meanwhile, Gen.G, Duro, and Ruler are in the top lane, so trying to get onto Flandre.
Very aggressive from Flandre, who looks for Duro here, almost finds him as the Dominus has been picked up. Ruler only level 5, but you can see a bit of a gank onto Keen on this bottom side as well. So he gets a fair bit of damage towards Hope, and he says, nice try, and walks back. Siva has some of the most memorable voice lines, by the way, like the better duck. Oh, so good. So, which is the better duck, by the way? Which one's she talking about?
I want to go back to the game 3 of the game Grand Finals.
I like Duckling.
And talk about Darkwing Duck. Yeah. So the trade here onto Flandre. I mean, he ends up losing all of his health. He doesn't have teleport as another charm connects, and I mean, this is going to be a trade that favors Chovy, but Aurora does have TP. So Keen, yeah, he gets threatened, almost gets taken out, didn't have his flash, but he could just TP back to lane, and at the same time, Gen.G continue to control every other aspect of the map right now. As you can see, Flandre slowly heading back to lane here, and AG.AL looking for another angle. Still no flash for Keen.
Yep, Keen gonna have to try and weasel his way out of this one. Does do so with the ulti, and yeah, he's fine. Never you mind, just slip between worlds, ladies and gentlemen. That's your way of escape. And that is why Aurora works on the top side of the map. Or the bottom, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely putting a lot of pressure on Keen, at least. Not making his life very easy, but, you know, with the Sivir, you're not going to have a huge amount of damage unless you're locking down the champion for quite a while. But as you mentioned, it's Aurora, so not really having a fun time of doing exactly that. We're zooming in onto Keen. Can he get all of these minions under the turret?
This is the height of the excitement in this game.
All of them. Got all of them. All
That's
7.
Insane.
Chovy is going to lose a lot of health here. Not actually landing a charm on this one. This is not the trade he was looking for, but at the end of the day, Gen.G is starting up this Dragon, but because Chovy gets chunked, I think they're just simply going to have to regroup. Grubs are up as well on the top side of the map, so maybe they'll just simply pivot to this and let that Chemtech Drake go.
Might be the way. It looks like the Grubs are going to be the focus on both sides. As Flandre going to lose a plate here towards the top side. Ruler's just making his life difficult as Duro is hovering, making sure that he keeps his Corki safe. Tarzan will start this up as AG.AL definitely with the priority on the Grubs, as we were talking about. Still might be able to make a run for the Drake as well. As you can see, the blue vision, top side and bottom side, very good around these objectives. But Canyon looking to make his way over, wanting to take at least one of these. As Gen.G also looking for the fight. Couldn't quite get the knock-up onto Tarzan there. Could Duro as they get into the back line. Canyon found no one with that Cyclone either. It's not exactly the fight that Gen.G were looking for, but still, they take first blood. Still, Shanks has to flash over the wall, and still, he's looking to go down as Chovy needs to find the charm. He doesn't quite get it, but still he gets the auto. It's not fair. It feels like it went as well as it could for AL, but finally their kills start to come in, and they even out the trade. Canyon gets some shellfish here off the back end of the fight, and in the end, it was pretty even between the two squads.
And the Cyclone wasn't amazing. A lot of stuff whiffs, and Gen.G, I think, could have had a way better fight had a lot of their big tools actually gone off. But it still ends up being a pretty good turnaround for them because the Grubs went over to AG.AL. They wanted to get something back. They so desperately needed to get something back here. And now you've generated a pretty significant lead here for Chovy in this game, but it's still pretty close. This is definitely AG.AL fighting back in a big way. The initial part of the fight, though, is so split for AL.
It was very weird.
Yeah, it definitely was. This was kind of like 3 fights happening all at the same time. Ruler a bit zoned by Flandre. Keep in mind that this is 4-on-4 for most of it until Hope comes up here on the Sivir. So 4-on-4 that Gen.G are winning. They get a bunch of damage on the Shanks, but Shanks, he's got the footwork. He's dodging everything.
Yep, and he's now able to single out Ruler here as well, who just wants to get himself out of here, although he's pretty dangerous. Magnetstorm comes in, Seismic Shove, and Ruler is just dead. Didn't have the flash from the previous fight, and so AL gonna finally be able to take down the Corki here, and now looking for a dragon. It feels like the winds are potentially starting to change.
Yeah.
Like maybe there is a bit more in this series.
And for the first time in a while in this series, Tarzan actually finds an opening where Canyon is just not there. He's just not able to actually match the gank there, and there's no cross map, so it's just AL looking for a pick there. Ruler doesn't have flash, is unable to get away from that shove, finally gets taken out. The Sivir rotation comes down as well. I mean, that was just completely under AL's control, and Canyon's just doing his jungle. You know, he can't impact the play. Keen is trying to continue the pressure here on the top side, but Gen.G get nothing in return. But with the resets, we'll finally, very late into this game, take the first break.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of trading objectives by the end of it all. The 3 grubs that did go over to the Renekton can be a bit of an issue a little bit later on for the side of AG.AL. But still a relatively even game. It's kind of going to be the Sivir who's getting out of control, who has a cull, is very ahead on gold, already has a kill and 2 assists. So kind of the ball is in Hope's court in terms of trying to carry for his team. Also, Flandre's actually doing a pretty good job, even though early on in the game, he was definitely struggling against Keen. He was able to come back in a big way. And it's going to be up against Chovy and Canyon, who are the 2 Fed guys for the side of Gen.G. It's Ari Wukong. We've seen a lot of duos make it happen in many different regions as Keen continues to be annoying. So it's going to be interesting to see which storyline does play out in this one.
Look at the vision that AG.AL have on the top side of the map. This is really reminiscent of what we saw from Gen.G when they controlled vision on the top side in Game 1. This is the first time in this series we have seen Gen.G put on the back foot, fight significantly in terms of map control. And it comes down to that play onto Ruler, his second death of the game. Stabilization of Flandre here. It's still a gold lead for Gen.G, but they don't actually have full map control. That belongs to AL on the top side right now, and let's see how they utilize things, because they're the ones who also have this global Talia. So this next team fight is going to be really interesting. It's probably not going to happen for a while unless they're able to find a pick angle here, but certainly AG.AL are in the right position, the right conditions to actually blow this game open on the next fight if they can keep that map control.
Well, Canyon has been taking a lot of crabs. That's what I've seen recently. Otherwise, not too much, as Gen.G holding onto a sliver of a gold lead, about 500 in it, some skill shots flying around. Kyle finally getting his eye in on that Shattering Strike. Will be able to land it onto Duro, and it is inconsequential. So mid lanes and supports hanging out in the top lane. You've got an 80 carry off in mid. Junglers are jungling. And you've got Chovy versus Flandre hanging out there towards the bottom side. Everything feeling pretty even. No one really finding big tempo leads or control of this game as it's ping-ponging waves waiting for the next objective. Speaking of which, that is going to be the Herald. It's going to be up in a minute and a half. See who's going to be able to get some control. It's a gentleman's agreement as far as the wards are concerned. Some deeper vision here on the side of AG.AL, but I don't think Gen.G are really hurting for control at this stage of the game.
You mentioned the cull, it's just cashed in. He had the Yuntals way, way, way accelerated in this game. You could see he ends up picking up the Zeal as well here. So has his boots now. He's very, very powerful. Talking about Hope, of course, in this game has a significant
That got them a gold lead.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And, I mean, AG.AL looking for this next fight here over Herald. They're already grouped up. They already have the better vision on top side. This is where Gen.G are going to have to make a really tricky decision. You know, do they TP Keenan, heavily commit, look for the Canyon engage angle? Ruler does have his Triforce here, so it's definitely playable. But this is a really tough fight. This is not going to be Gen.G having those wombo combos or just completely dictating the pace of the map, because there's also a Talia on the other side. Shanks can come through here. Unfortunately for AG.AL, though, they did concede control. Like, they had vision, but they did not actually seize control of the river early, and now Gen.G have a contest angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have an angle in this one, but it does feel like, you know, with the control that AG.AL have with their composition, especially the Xin, it just feels like he can just run into brushes and be totally fine in even game states. It's part of what makes him so strong. I mean, a lot of pressure down on the bottom side as Tarzan is all the way down there.
Yeah.
The Herald is spawning.
Tarzan's just given this up. Like, he's not even anywhere near this. I think for Gen.G, they're probably a little bit surprised by that as well. And AL just playing extremely safe, but it's going to potentially cost them big as Canyon has an angle here.
Yeah, AL looking to come in. I think now they're realizing that the Herald has spawned, but it is going to be given up on here by Gen.G. They're respecting a whole lot as Tarzan finally does move his way in. Duro going to be their target. As On the Hunt has been popped. Duro trying to get himself out of there, and he will be able to do so. Just using the heal, actually. Still has the flash available. Can go for some cheeky plays with that depth charge if he would like to. Is now Flandre off on his own. Keen moves up as well. 5v5 now a possibility. As the Magnus Storm doesn't quite work, and Keen takes that as an invitation. The hook to connect onto the jungler, and it's looking like a disaster here for AL to start this one off. And they do manage to find, finally, Flandre getting in there. But is it too little, too late? That's the question, as Hope will be able to get himself a kill. And now Ruler trying to get himself out. Man, that was kind of crazy, but it's not going to work there for the AD carrier Gen.G. And Hope is looking for Chovy, who's walking around with about 0 HP. Not entirely sure what just happened there, as the back is going to come in here for Flandre. The clone from Canyon looking to try and save him, but I think the Crocodile is just going to eat the monkey here, as finally the flash is employed and Canyon looking to get himself out.
That was a very wild fight. I mean, AG.AL,
that was weird. Who even won?
They threw everything in the kitchen sink at this Nautilus, and Duro's like, yeah, okay, cool story. And we were looking at this like Gen.G were going to turn it around in a big way and just sweep the fight. But that was not the case because Flandre just spun on all of them at the end.
Watch Kyle in this moment decide he wants to go in here, gets the Shattering Strike, but then cancels his engage, flashes away, doesn't get on top of Keen. And Chovy and Ruler are able to do a ton of damage, but Flandre being this big and this untouched, getting this massive Q, wins the fight for AL. If he doesn't get there, if he's not able to make that happen, I think Gen.G cleaned this one up. Flandre had such a big part to play in this. And with the late Weaver's Wall here, the chase is good on Ruler. The flash was incredible. It was almost enough to turn it around for him, but it's not quite there. That was a great salvage, though, by Flandre, because otherwise, this game might have just ended, this finals might have ended, but the Renekton comes up big. Massive team fight damage, almost 4,000 in the fight.
That's that buffed dominus, baby. It is absolutely insane. It's just a tale of two top laners here in this series.
Yeah, it really is. In the series entirely, like Flandre getting the Sony MVPs the last couple of days and Keen trying to get it today. But what's going to happen? We got another brawl brewing.
Yeah, second Drake on the line here for Gen.G, but it is going to be a full 5v5 as the Magnus Storm is decent, but the Cyclone is looking better. That is Tarzan getting the Dragon, but oh god, the ricochets from Hope. Keen getting cut down, Ruler suffering the same fate, and Chovy is the last man standing. Shanks looking to put him down as it's a double here for the Croc. Oh my god, Gen.G just fall apart at the seams. Okay, Charm not going to quite connect there, but Flandre moves in, wants to give the kill over to Shanks. Good guy, Flandre. It's been the same way, I swear, since 2015 when he was on Snake. He's just a good guy.
Bit of a whiff on this one for Gen.G, though. That's going to be the mid turret going down on top of the Dragon, and it looks like we might be heading towards a series here in our grand finals with a near 3,000 gold lead now for Hope, but it's so much ricochet damage in that fight. Could take that turret, could take the Herald here very late, but they will secure it, and AG.AL are fully in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, it does feel like this time around, Gen.G trying to scramble to fight for this Drake, but this time, Kyle gets that great engage, and you see that the follow-up is right there. Flandre is unkillable. The Ruler doesn't do any damage at this point, and yeah, he gets kind of bullied as well by Flandre, and just breaks up the entire fight. They crash down straight into that banana brush and take control of the fight.
The angle, too, at which AL had that Dragon, where they just held it. They're like, yeah, no, you're not in smite range. Canyon all-ins towards it, goes for his Warrior's Trickster, gets on top of the Dragon, but it's not in smite range, so they just wait and take him out. And then Flandre gets in, and it's just super easy. Gen.G used all their tools to try to secure the objective, and were unsuccessful, and then didn't have anything left for the fight.
And now it is looking like a very uncomfortable position for the team that did have match point 4-0 for
that gold diff.
Like, that is absolute insanity. And yep, that last fight, that's what did it. A massive influx of gold. Flandre now able to knock down this outer turret. That is only going to continue that aggression here for AG.AL, as 2 turrets off the back end of that team fight as well here for AL. Just means that they have skyrocketed into the lead. Now it's moving towards 5,000 after that top lane turret went down. Now Otacon is going to spawn. A possible way back in for Gen.G if they can find something heroic, but also a way to really put the nails in the coffin here for AL. They can get control of that Otacon and get that big buff.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy just thinking about all the great top laners we have at this tournament, and how it does feel like it's coming down to a head-to-head between top laners in this best of 5. And it's crazy because Hope is the most fed guy on the Rift. We're not even, we were talking about his damage and his ricochet damage and all that, but he doesn't feel like the main character at this point. Gen.G looking for a dive here on a Shanks.
Even committing Chovy's TP, they have to get this, and they will.
They certainly will be able to kill Shanks, but at what cost is the question, because the Otacon, as we said, spawn towards the top side, and they don't have it. They have 1 teleport.
So they're going to get the bottom inner turret as well. At least that's the assumption here, with Keen and Chovy holding this push here, as AG.AL are going to take the backs here. It's going to be a slower Otacon. I like this decisive call. Is it a trade up? At this point, with a relatively low pedal count, I think it's okay here for Gen.G. It's not what they wanted, but I think making the call to say, look, we don't have any topside control. They're leaving this vulnerable member under a low health turret bottom side. Let's all in on the bottom side, look for that turret instead. Double turrets go over. Gen.G shore up some of that gold deficit. They've now cut it nearly in half. This is the best choice they could have made given the circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. It does still mean that AG.AL are very much in a commanding lead at this point. They're going to get a bunch of those pedals up to 25, and it's another crucial time in this game. We haven't talked too much about the dragons, but looking to get that next dragon, it is Mountain Soul, and then of course the Baron spawn in 3 minutes. It does feel like AG.AL have total control over the map. There are a couple of wards that were just placed down here from Gen.G, so they should be able to clear those out, but yeah, I don't really feel like Chovy and Canyon have an angle to carry this game. It just feels like the Flandre show in game number 3.
Yep, looking a little bit rough here as well. I mean, a lot of the focus here from Gen.G is on the things that they can get, right? Killing Shanks, certainly one of those options. But right now, Shanks is like a 0 damage Taliyah. He is not part of the equation when it comes to what's dangerous.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's the setup. And he's the setup to potentially get picks, but then Flandre is the one who really gets into the back line and keeps Ruler from dueling with the Taliyah, keeps him from touching Hope, right? And the ways in which Gen.G have to come back in this game, the margins are so thin. But again, they cut down that gold lead massively. And they have to just kind of sit back defensively here for a while in this game and clear waves because they're playing into this Sivir. So the fact they were able to find 2 turrets is like the best case scenario, I feel, for them. And now they're going to have the better group here on this Dragon. We do have a rotating Taliyah here. Shanks is coming down. He has that Weaver's Wall. Renekton's on the flank here. A tough fight for Gen.G to win, but they're going to stick the Drake.
Yeah, Flandre looking for that flank angle. They do have control vision. He does walk on in as Duro is waiting for him. Hook is going to connect max range here as they're looking to blow him up before anything's even started, and they do manage to find it. Kyle gets a Magnustorm, but there is no one there to follow up. And now Keen is going to get thrown back, but it doesn't even matter. The Dragon goes over to Gen.G and AL. They're just stun-locked here by a Gen.G that have discovered how to teamfight with this composition. Shanks and Hope are still there. They can offer some damage back. Duro's going down exceptionally low, and Hope still has those ricochets. Maybe I spoke too soon as Chovy at full health is looking for the targets as Ruler will finally find one back. But these rocks are on the floor and Shanks is controlling the fight. The flash in from Keen is not going to work. Chovy's sidesteps need to be immaculate. And there's the flash forward to Boomerang for the double tap onto Ruler. And Hope is holding on to this game for AL.
Holding on indeed. Such an incredible end to that fight for the side of AG.AL. I mean, that was looking all Gen.G. They They shut down the one guy we were talking about all game in Flandre. They take him out immediately. They use their burst damage, their pick potential excellently, and then AG.AL just barely able to eke it out towards the end of this fight.
This is such an incredible call to drop Dragon and go on to Flandre, even though he's going to get a massive Q. There's just too much CC. The CC chain is there. Like you mentioned, Atlas, Kyle can't really set up for any follow-up here. They get the Dragon as well. And from here, you could be happy to just walk away, but they want to get the wipe and get more. And this is when the outplays start to come through. Shanks' flash here, beautiful against Chovy. Tarzan is able to absorb so much pressure. Duro falls low, right? Canyon is 100% dead. Tarzan flashes for the kill. And then from here, you could still just kind of kite your way out. But then look for the outplays. Keen flashes and whiffs here. And then, you know, at this point, you're just trying to force. Ruler has to flash his way well, but that whip from Keen is so important, and they just will not concede the point. The greed here from Gen.G is insane. They skill check AL, and they lose.
Yeah, Ruler not too happy about that one either, and I can understand some of the stunned faces from the crowd because, I mean, as a play-by-play, you often get into your mind what the vibe of a team fight, right, and who's winning and stuff like that. I got it wrong, you know? Gen.G were dominating, but then it was actually a win for AL in the very end. As you can see, Hope is still so incredibly far ahead. 6-0-5, 3 items on the Sivir, and now Gen.G kind of reeling. It is still only a 2.3k gold lead and at 25.5 minutes. That's borderline meaningless, but there's Arakan on top of it, which is only getting more and more valuable as it is only AG.AL that's going to be getting petals from this point on. And there's a lot of these intangibles that they have been able to take control of. But Gen.G do at least have some dragons that are starting to stack up.
Yeah, they get that second dragon. That's a big part of that last fight, actually, that they were able to pick up the one. Take a look at the XP and the levels. It's actually Hope on top. It's all those kills, all those assists. He's got the max bounty on him right now. And yeah, I mean, Gen.G, it was a good read to say, okay, AG, they love to go for these flanks. They love to come from so many different angles. Finn was talking about it all tournament long on the desk, and they do. They're fantastic at setting up the team fights, but Gen.G were able to get ahead of it, and it just, you know, they were able to do that, but they don't have a real answer for Hope. Like we saw in that last fight, Duro was able to hook on him, but it just got spell shielded. They don't have that hard engage onto the Sivir, who is basically untouchable at this point.
They used everything on the Renekton, and then Hope just didn't whiff, man. He didn't mess it up. He played so carefully. He was the last to flash to secure the kill, right? He was not playing defensively. He was playing defensively. He was not playing aggressively until he knew he had the guarantee. As there's a pick potential on the Canyon.
Yeah, Shock does come on through there as Canyon looking to try and make his way out. The Magnet Storm doesn't quite do it, but still, the wall is going to come down, and AL are looking for their targets. The Crescent Guard going to go in, but AL not quite able to get their teeth all the way in, but still, they push them out, and now they're going to look for a Baron angle.
They have double control vision here on the approach to the Baron. Gen.G are going to instantly TP back in, but I just don't know if a contest is possible. Canyon has no flash. It's coming soon, but I think they're just simply going to have to give this up, which feels horrible because the Dragon is 45 seconds away. They're not going to be able to trade objectives here. They just kind of have to sit back and let AL have it.
Yeah, in terms of trades, I mean, the health trade was huge. They got a lot of summoners down as well, just trying to push them out of the jungle and essentially make it so there would be no contest. And that's exactly what AG.AL did fantastically in that last fight. And the timing of this is great because they can just regroup, buy their items, and go straight to the Mountain Drake and really try to solidify that lead. It's still in touching distance for Gen.G, but you're really beginning to see it float away in the hands of AG.AL here.
Yep, 2 inner turrets left on the map here. So AG.AL, after this Drake is secured, can head up there, grab that extra bit of money. That could really break the camel's back, as we like to say. AL just going to start this one, and Gen.G have no interest in contesting this whatsoever. Minion waves are going to be the priority to make sure that this Baron gets as little value as possible.
Some of the things I think we have to really be tracking and watching now here for Gen.G's potential miracle comeback in this game are Canyon's flash, Chovy's flash. Like, how do they get past the front line? How do they get past Flandre? Get a spell shield out of Hope and kill him, you know? and there's no teleport wards really. Like, there's one that's very far away from the AL push here that you could try to go for as Chovy, but it's so risky, it's so greedy. This feels like it's all but over here in this game 3.
Oh, the flash forward on top of Keen. They saw that stealth was on cooldown. He tries to get himself out, but Hope, he had the Beyblades in the air, and he's able to take down the Aurora. Chovy flashing away, doesn't get the charm, and Hope is just a freight train. And these Nexus turrets are under fire. AL, they are not interested in the rest of the base. They just want to take down this Nexus and look for a second to try and bring us to some silver scrapes. Gen.G will put up a bit of a fight, but it's a flash away from Ruler, and that will expose the last Nexus turret here as AG.AL, they are not out of this without a fight. This game 3 was all theirs, and this series just got interesting.
We finally have a series on our hands. AG.AL finally woke up.
Quickness that found them all, and Hooney's Rupture that also found them all, and then the Shockwave did also find them all, but that was there. That was part of the combo.
Still counts. And the Cho'Gath is going to count for something. I think if Flandre can get a big Cho'Gath game in for game 4 and tie this up at 2, then it's absolutely a tiebreaker.
All right, hold up.
Our 2 top lanes.
Are you okay?
We got Unsealed Spellbook for Kael, Unsealed Spellbook for Flandre. Flandre's ult is also a smite.
Oh god, they are not losing the smite
Like,
fight. That's the
I
plan.
Poppy. They could just ult the enemy jungler away. Or
I
the Shen,
think
I
they
guess.
want to get the objectives.
I
based
think
on
they
these
may
runes.
want to get the objective. You're
Yes.
exactly right.
Well, you got to
Play for the Elder.
You got to be on position on the objectives to actually do that.
You definitely need to hit Canyon with it. So maybe Canyon needs to build a Banshee's Veil. Maybe that's the answer, because then, like, Ruler can Killer Instinct back, he can Stand United back if you do it, and the other 2 can teleport back, right? And so Canyon just cannot get ulted away.
Look at the edited sign, by the way. The cover up of the 0. Yeah, she meant that from the beginning.
I think she was prepared.
3-1. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. Yeah, you were talking about ball carriers as well, by the way, Wolf. You know, it kind of just feels like Orianna by herself in this game. It doesn't really feel like, yes, the Poppy can get in there.
Yeah, Poppy slams someone into a wall, and
that's
boom,
really it.
carry the ball in.
You know,
yeah.
They didn't have a lot of options. I mean, they could, if they really wanted to opt into it, maybe they pick something like a Zac or like even a Viego could have been better. So yeah, just Orianna choice as just a straight up control mage for the mid lane. Nothing crazy there, no big combo, but yeah, the Orianna does have a lot of wombo combo potential with the rest of the team in the team fights at least.
So much of this is going to be about when Gen.G decide to go in, like when they decide to commit that Kai'Sa ultimate, when Chovy decides to commit in and actually start doing damage. Because if they just sit back and poke with the Jace and the Kai'Sa, then, you know, Shanks doesn't necessarily have that angle because there is no carrier. He is not necessarily going to be able to get into Shockwave range. So that's what I'm most concerned about here for AL, because both these comps are wonky, right? They're a little bit weird. They don't have strong themes necessarily, but it's going to be about control over the objectives. And sometimes you could just say, I don't care, and I'm going to press Smite 3 times and take the objective away.
And feast.
But what if you die
their
trying?
Smite.
Then it might not actually necessarily matter that you got the objective. But yeah, that's what I mean. The feast being essentially the 3rd Smite in this case.
All right.
Well, I mean, I guess he has unsealed, so like 4 Smites.
Yeah.
Sorry for miscounting, even though I was the first one to bring this
still
up. But
too many
yeah.
smites. Just still absolutely too many smites. As we have a return to lane here from Shanks here in mid. Towards the top side, we do have Keen putting on the pressure here towards the top side of the map, but Flandre doing decently well, still farming things up.
You know which pick I feel like feels the best in this whole draft is the Sejuani. It doesn't have like a huge amount of synergy in terms of like melee lanes and stuff like that, but it just offers really reliable engage, which there's just not a lot of left. It's fearless. We drafted, what was it, 6 engage champions for the support role over and over and over again. And of course, a lot of our junglers are also gone, and Strundle's also gone. So you just feel like Canyon, you know, he can get fights started extremely reliably. He's going to be a frontline. He can just kind of throw out his ults, and there's really not so much that AG.AL can do about it. Feels like a great pick here for Game 4.
Yeah, he is insanely good, or she, but, you know, in this case, Ken is insanely effective into MF. As Tarzan is going to be flashed. That was a great timing there by Chovy.
Couldn't go south. Kyle was coming up the river.
Don't give a wall for him to smash you into. And so it looks a bit weird walking straight towards the jungler, but it works out. Still has to use the flash, so it's not exactly the greatest of situations. As Keen putting on the pressure here towards the top side. Feral Scream from Flandre. Try and clear out these minions, but it is still a plate going over to Keen. The pressure is there.
Yeah, the biggest winner for me, Valdez, I really like all the points you made about the Sejuani. I think they're all valuable, but I think she'd probably be a second for me. But I think the Jace, which we were a little bit skeptical about initially, is the biggest winner for me, because getting on top of this pick, trying to threaten him or win lane against him in this early game is just so difficult. Canyon is unfortunately going to take an extra turret shot here. Still looking to commit to the dive.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have the frost armor after that. It's still going to go for it. Here is Flandre. Bit of an early flash and isn't going to be able to make it, as if Canyon dies, it's purely because he took that turret shot early. Oh, bit of a disaster there as we go 1-for-1. Is now Chovy in trouble. No flash available as Tarzan looking to make his way in, and the hook goes wide. Oh man, Chovy reads him like a book.
Kyle, you got to hit those. If he hits that, Chovy is dead. And then you've got Canyon down, you've got Chovy down. You're really clapping back Gen.G after the early plays, but just wasn't meant to be. A very close one. Like the dive, you know, this is what you want to do. You want to play around your Jace. It's Kane's Jace. He is so fantastic on this pick. We don't see it all too much nowadays, but Game 4 Fearless comes out once again.
Yeah, he is going to have to rush back, but he's going to miss a few minions here. Not going to be the end of the world, but it's no cannon wave, and it's going to be a little bit of extra damage down there on the bottom side, as we do have those lane swaps to come through. Do like AL's position a lot better after they were able to get that counter kill there on the top side. Really helps out with this early game tempo.
Looking forward to seeing what Ruler's going to be able to get done this game. I think that his Corki was very muted in the last one. Had some flubs as far as the team fights as well. So I think going to really need to lock in on this Kai'Sa here as that sidestep. That shows that maybe things are working out a little bit better. Voidseeker connecting, but just a little bit of poke damage onto AL. And Hope really has been phenomenal. The last game especially looked exceptionally good. So he is going to have a big target on his back. And Ruler can certainly find assassination angles onto this Misfortune if she does decide to ult at an opportune time. Gen.G pushing out here towards the top side of the map. And on the bottom side, Tarzan getting as much vision as he possibly can.
Gen.G revenge for T1. Well, we'll see if they can do that. Definitely got off to a great start. I think that AG.AL coming to life in Game 3 was exactly what we needed to make this series a very interesting one. Would have been a little bit depressing to get another 3-0 here at the Esports World Cup.
I think LPL fans,
League of Legends.
Yeah, we're probably not hoping for the tradition to be made here in our second year, as it's definitely a big bounce back here for AG.AL, and another hook will miss.
Yeah, that's thanks to the ward more than anything, is the Shadow Dash able to get Duro to safety. Shockwave just to soften up Chovy in the mid lane. Kind of like that play from Shanks, keeping the pressure up as much as he possibly can. Do see this from Oriana's quite a bit when they're playing pretty aggro. But Chovy is not too worried about it. He is 6 CS in the lead and is going to be able to retain some control as Ruler. Supercharger now on cooldown as Kyle looks for the hook, doesn't get it. That was a greedy one as he wanted to take Ruler with Duro right in front of him. And now the taunt is going to come in. Canyon does have that Glacial Prison. The flash forward on top of Hope does get the flash out from him as the permafrost to come on forward. And oh dear, that's a goal in my country. Still doesn't actually matter as they manage to lock down the kill onto the Blitzcrank and give that kill over to Ruler.
Chovy dies in the mid lane though.
Yeah, what happened there?
Ganked by Tarzan as he wasn't able to impact the topside play, but he is able to get that kill onto Chovy. He's still flashless from that earlier exchange. Now we have fight over grubs.
Yep, these engages, these answers are happening everywhere. As Duro actually just doing the world's shortest stand united. He was already united, we should tell him.
But he wanted to stand united.
Ah, so he was sitting, was slouching.
Yes, absolutely.
And, okay, so he's now standing united. Nicely done. Better than sitting. As Flandre taking a bit of damage here from Keen, who is ahead in farm, but not by that much, right? I think Flandre is going to be pretty happy with how this game has gone thus far, despite being a bit of a punching bag. As Kyle looking for a bit of an angle. Can he outplay it yet again? As against the wall is Chovy, and that is not what you want to see. Still not exactly taking that much damage, and the turret's being tanked here by Tarzan. Shanks with not very much damage at this point, with only a catalyst. So Chovy just is fine.
Tarzan here with the push. Chovy has no flash, has only his ultimate, which offers a lot of damage back, but it's not quite enough.
Yeah, you can see him scratching his head there, not happy with the way that one played out. Just gets caught out in a position where he didn't expect it. This is the gank on the top side where Canyon did kind of score a goal a little bit later on, but they do get the kill at least onto Kyle eventually. As you can see, he's just mentally in between the both of them because they want to get that kill on a Kyle and then ult hope, but not quite able to do both. They still get the kill on a Kyle, but AG.AL do get at least the kill on the Chovy in mid, which is going to be fantastic. Gets Tarzan to that first item a bit quicker.
Oh, Ruler. Hook is going to connect. Kyle finds that one as the flash has to be used. The silence comes in, but Ruler is going to be okay, actually using the barrier a little bit late to make sure that doesn't get destroyed by the ulti. But still, that is a lot of summoner spells now missing here from Ruler.
It's
and only Duro there to catch the wave.
Down, including Duro's heal he uses at the very end. And that is definitely a huge win, especially because Ruler has to back and no one can catch the wave that's incoming here. There's no real answer. I mean, Keen doesn't have TP. Chovy does not want a TP bottom. So this is going to be some additional plate gold going over to Hope for sure, as well as some deny of the CS. If Keen had TP, it could go down to answer. Instead, they're going to try to make a cross-map play here before that swap back here onto Flandre, but Flandre is just going to get out.
Yep, he's just going to run real fast. Tarzan in position as well, and in fact, the cavalry is about to arrive. Kyle will be coming out of the fog of war, and this is dangerous now for Gen.G. Canyon wanting to make his way out. The steadfast presence still there, and the knock-up means that he is not going anywhere. Tarzan just holding that W to make sure that there was no Arctic assaulting away. Yeah. AL, they managed to get the feats of warfare yet again.
I mean, they saw him coming a mile away. Now, Shanks is not going to expect this. I mean, they have snuck into this brush. Can they catch him off guard? No, Shanks smartly going to back away.
I mean, he has flash, and the only way they could really engage on that is if Keen, like, flash hammered him back in, and he's just going to be able to react to that. So, unfortunately, I think optimistic to try to make that happen. Maybe could have gotten his flash, but ultimately will just be a free escape there for Shanks, who picks up his Rod of Ages. And AL are going to take this Dragon here on the bottom side. Another late first break here as the action has mostly been mid and top in this game. But some of the plays we've been seeing here for Gen.G are relatively haphazard, right? A lot of disrespect on where Tarzan is on the map. And Gen.G have been in control of so many games this series and so many games this tournament. They'll get back to their MSI as well. This is what they're known for, is getting a lead and never letting it go. But in even game states like this, if you make those aggressive plays and the enemy is ready for you, you end up tossing some of those leads away. I mean, Keen had a pretty significant one, but now he's actually technically behind.
Yeah, and there's actually, we just saw there, the vision toggle, actually really good to illustrate the fact that AL have a lot of information. A lot of these wards were swept out. Those couple that we saw just there, they weren't, as somehow he's out of vision. That was kind of cute. So just going to be backing. Canyon goes back, gets the heart steal completed. Flandre in a similar boat on that front. And Tarzan, he's also getting stronger and stronger on this Poppy.
AL is on a ward.
So dangerous.
Yeah, definitely a big vision game up on the top side, which was very nicely shown by our observers, mentioned by you, Atlas. Does feel like Kyle is trying to fight back in terms of the vision game, especially for Blitzcrank, right? Like, it's so important that you know exactly what angle they're coming from. You want to deny as much vision as possible.
He's got cleanse too. It's so low risk for him to be out here like this.
Yeah, he can cleanse the Jace.
I mean, if the Sejuani ulted him, he'd be totally fine. Now they're looking for Keen.
Yeah, looking to try and overload here as Keen clears out the wave instantly. And Stand United means that there is no aggression at all to be coming on through. So this is what Gen.G's composition can do, right? You can turn on a dime. If you try and overload, then there are a lot of options for answering. Still, that's a long cooldown. See what AL can do with that button now on cooldown. They get it pretty comfortably here without investing too much.
Yeah, you know, funnily enough, I feel like if they waited for AG.AL to commit to the dive, like to actually use a bunch of stuff and get turret aggro, maybe they could have turned that one around. The Kaisa was running up as well, and Ruler could have joined the fight with his ultimate, and it's Grasp Jace. You know, he's not the tankiest, but if you wait just a couple of seconds, wait for the engage to actually come through, and then use the Sand United to get some of that shielding through and maybe keep them alive, maybe you can actually get a counter dive going.
Yeah.
They react almost too quickly, and so AG.AL just ran away, and they didn't have to spend anything really for that play.
I feel like, you know, when we look at the game state here and the nice plays we've seen from AG.AL, the lead they generated is somewhat small, but it's been a pretty good start for them in this game. A lot of it's been through trickery, right? It's been through some mistakes from Gen.G. We haven't seen it really through a true 5v5 fight, which is the big issues and concerns and worries I had for their draft. So, you know, don't count your chickens before they're hatched here in this one, because I do feel like we haven't yet really seen what this composition is necessarily going to look like when we do hit those 5v5s, where Gen.G are playing a little bit of keep away, playing through this Jace. We are seeing the Kraken Slayer build to come out here from Ruler, who almost has his completed Cull. Can still later on build an Asher's Tooth. We've seen some of those teched in late as third item, but not going to be there for a while. But AL, with the control they have, I think they should really hold on to this, because that empowers the Blitzcrank, that empowers the Shockwave engages.
All right, let's see what Gen.G can get done as the Rift Herald has spawned. Now Hook is going to come through, and Ruler just caught out. Killer Instinct going to be used as the flash bullet time is going to secure the kill. They do take a bit of damage off the back end. The Glacial Prison was there, but I think that Rift Herald was earned by AL.
I think so, and that's the vision game. You know where the Blitzcrank is, you're going to walk forward like that, you're going to get punished, and Ruler, again, killed, but also loses summoners again, so he's another vulnerable target for anything follow-up-wise that AL can send through. They are not going to need the Rift Herald to get this turret, and the mid lane is going to be the next target where they can drop it to potentially get a 2-Drake lead here to use that prio on this next dragon, and things are looking up and up for them.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see AG.AL having so much success on this Blitzcrank. I mean, fantastic hook once again. The vision game that we've been mentioning all game long coming through once again. And remember, he only picked this Blitzcrank when he only saw the top side of the map, and we were like, huh, interesting choice. You know, we don't exactly say, okay, AG.AL is the Blitzcrank guy, but he's certainly making a name for himself on this pick here tonight.
Yeah, it was like a solo queue lock-in. He's like, no, just trust me. I'm good at the crank. And
trust. I
give him the crank.
So far, I think we're going to have to continue to trust. But it's one of those fights where it's a win for AG.AL out of the trickery, right? Out of the vision game, out of the pick potential. And that's the kind of lead they're going to keep holding on to. There's a TP is going to be committed by Chovy.
Okay, they just want to take this turret. They might be able to get first brick, actually, as Rift Herald is going to go down in mid. They're going to be able to get the charge. The turret does go down, so no feats of strength just yet, as there's still one more objective needed to be picked up by AG.AL, and 2 if Gen.G want to be able to claim it, as this Rift Herald is really getting put through her paces.
I don't know if there's any way that Gen.G are going to stop this dragon from going over. And that is
the charge. Two
turrets plus the top turret that's basically dead here means that attempt from Chovy comes at such a heavy price, because that is going to be the objective feat of strength to come here with this dragon. Like, they get everything on the play.
Okay, so that's going to mean a balloon of the gold, about 1,000 now in the lead for AG.AL, but they've got 2 dragons, a Mountain Soul once again. I believe, is that like our second or third so far this series? Quite a few mountains, yes. Pretty mountainous. But that is going to mean a whole lot of durability, especially for Flandre. My goodness, this Cho'Gath could become monstrously big in this game if they're able to stack that one up. So Soul Point coming up next. See whether Gen.G can get themselves into a position to fight for it, because right now, looking pretty muted. Skeen finding a shockwave onto Tarzan, and Tarzan saying, you what? To that one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the best position you can be in as AG.AL. You took down the mid turret. It's just going to make Blitzcrank value skyrocket in this game. And so, you know, Ruler was already having trouble farming in mid. He's been having trouble farming in mid this entire tournament. And now he really is not going to have a great option to do so. Chovy's in the side lane. But Ruler, you know, already 300 rather gold behind his opponent in Hope. And I do worry about this Kaisa. At least Chovy is doing a decent job. And of course, Keen kind of got this free lane into the tank Cho'Gath where he's farmed up. But again, I haven't seen too much Jace value at this point in the game. So kind of just waiting it out, farming it out here in this mid game.
Shanks does end up trading this turret while also deleting a lot of those minions so that a little bit less farm will go over to Gen.G. So it's a trade of turrets, but I think this is still pretty good for AL considering how much they've already gotten. And the map control on the top side that comes with that turret take. Look at the triple wards there on the top side. Makes it difficult for Keen to step up here. He's finally going to complete that Muramana stacking in just a moment here with a few more of these waves coming through. But the leads you can really feel here for AG.AL. The question is it enough of a lead? 1,000 gold, 2 dragon stacking lead here to be able to win 5v5s consistently into this composition here for Gen.G that punishes them so hard if they're out of position. If they lose map control just once, like if Gen.G wins one team fight, they get the vision control, this game turns on its head instantly. So while it's an amazing position for AL, don't get me wrong, they definitely can't rest on their laurels in this one. They need to make sure they can continue to hold on to this.
Staying vigilant, I think, is going to be aim of the game here for AL. But if they do, I mean, the amount of control you do have when you get control of the map, right? With the fact that Poppy's Keeper's Verdict is going to be so strong and the Blitzcrank always demanding respect if you can't see him. It's such a big deal. And AL now with control of this top side. Atakan has been very, very powerful and is once again on the rift.
Kyle
spawned in.
It's going to refresh wards and come back.
Okay, Tarzan getting softened up a little bit by some of the poke from Gen.G.
Yeah, should be a decent amount of poke coming out from, you've got Victor, you've got Jace,
If you
got
can,
Kaisa.
yeah, if you can see where to poke,
Exactly.
you can see Gen.G is really struggling to clear, but they are going to get this vision away.
Yeah, so Ruler didn't want to risk it that time around, and you can't really blame him. As Death Ray to come on through, Hope moving around, thinking that maybe they've got a bit of a window onto Chovy here, slowed down by the Make It Rain as Flandre lumbers his way forward. And Shanks, looking for that back timing, does manage to pick up his Crypt Bloom. Is now looking to join this fight. 2 items now intact. Actually gets them before Chovy.
Look at Canyon. What? He's just in the enemy jungle right now. Is he going to find Shanks rather and take a 1v1 or something? He has snuck in here.
This is very risky, but it may pay off. He's seen, though. That's going to force a TP.
Comes in from Chovy, who makes his way back with his Leandries in tow.
It took a long time, though. It was a slow play, but Gen.G actually get control over the objective. It took a really long time. It was very methodical, but this is the type of fight where Gen.G can use their poke. They finally have vision control, and they're going to force AL for the first time to come to them. And come to them they must.
Yeah, Tarzan going to get stunned up there by the gravity field. Can they manage to get this as they knock them all away? That Atakan is just stolen. And Gen.G, what was the plan? We knew that the Poppy was going to be there. He just flashes in and takes their lunch money. We knew also that they had about 50 smites.
They had so many smites, and they only needed one. They just had Tarzan just straight up smite it. And you know what? I mean, we talked about this so much. We thought that AG.AL would need position on an objective before really being able to secure them, but not clearing out all the vision is very unlike Gen.G. They leave a ward directly in the pit. AG.AL saw everything, and it was the easiest setup for them to just poppy knock away and smite secure. So that's a free Atakan over to AG.AL.
You've got to consider the Keeper's Verdict angle in a draft like this and be prepared to deal with it, but they decided just to burn as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, AL, big winners here again.
Well, this time Tarzan doesn't have the ulti available for this dragon fight. Let's see whether Gen.G can take a little bit more control this time. The gravity field does go down. Death Ray's layered on top here. The poke is landing as Gen.G now try to get some control. Hook not quite going to connect there as in goes Duro. Does manage to get the taunt as there's the shockwave to finish off the Shen. And Kyle is actually able to limp his way out of there. The Arcane Storm getting some work done. Killer Instinct there from Ruler gets the shutdown onto Flandre. Kyle still alive, though, in this fight. Chovy looking a little worse for wear as Tarzan now going to turn away from his former teammate and look for his as Gen.G look to back off. There is the Okay, point blank ulti comes on through as Canyon. I don't think he's going to be able to do this alone, but he does manage to get at least one of them. Flashes away now as Tarzan, absolutely massive. Steadfast Presence comes in, and oh my goodness, the buckler is what finishes off this jungler. And Gen.G, they get the worst end of this trade as well.
Oh, it's just such a rough fight to try to take. I mean, Chovy has to do everything in the fight. He gets incredibly low, maximizes his damage. His Chaos Storm is decent, but Gen.G were in no way, shape, or form set up to fight that, as they're looking to deny this dragon now. But I just don't think they have enough between this Victor and Shen.
Tarzan is a jungler. He has smite.
He does in fact have smite, and Duro did not have smite set up here. But look at this fight again, because so much of this is about the fact that Gen.G are trying to do multiple things at once. They're trying to poke, but also hold this dragon, and Chovy has to position really well. And then they engage. Instead of waiting for Chovy to be able to do more damage in this choke, Duro basically sacrifices himself for that. And to watch how much heavy lifting Chovy has to do in this fight as Tarzan is on top of him, wailing on him. Ruler goes in for the ult, but puts himself in a vulnerable spot, and Chovy can't help. Everybody's solo. Chovy has to then flash away, wants to get out of here, has the blast cone, but he just leaves his teammates to die on the top side of the map. And Shanks, no fear here.
Yeah, it's just a very messy fight. I feel like it was a bit desperate of an engage, and AG.AL were just so ready. Like, so much went into the Cho'Gath, and Flandre's like, all right, if you want to ult onto me, sure thing, buddy. I mean, now you're totally out of position. You're super low, and it was just in this extended fight. By the way, Tarzan not checked at all. Just a really tanky Poppy, doing a ton of damage. I think he did the most damage in the fight, and he's a Poppy.
And he just sat on top of Chovy like the half of the fight.
Yeah.
Put him down to like 0 health, and Chovy's trying to push everybody else back.
4,400 damage for the Poppy.
He's an absolute monster. The fact that he finishes off Canyon with a buckler to the back of the head as well must have been very cathartic, as the Baron has spawned about 20 seconds ago. Hasn't been started just yet, but you saw some jostling as we did have the picture-in-picture there. So AL going to defend this outer turret.
And everyone's favorite first item Poppy build here. It just means he's doing so much. He's super sustainable. 4 kills on this Poppy as we group up for the Baron. That residual vision here from the Scuttle Crab is going to feel pretty nice here for the side of AG.AL. They know there's no way that even with this Leandri's Victor with Rod, like that this could be burnt down by Gen.G. They have all the information now. They're just going to clear this vision away. And we talked about it a lot, but AG.AL have really never given up that control. There was that one fight on Dragon where Gen.G had a little bit more, but kind of botched the execution. But since then, they just keep holding on to this, and it makes it so hard for Keen to hit Shock Blast. Like, look at him.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Canyon going to be the target. He's the jungler. That could mean Baron. And they do take him down. There's the nom-nom from Flandre. And AL, that was the target that they wanted. They get it simply, and now they're looking for even more. The Keeper's verdict is nothing. But I don't know whether they really wanted them to go away, because AL kind of want to kill them all. Duro getting into that backline as there's the knock up onto Ruler, but he takes down Kyle. Now a second to come in as Tarzan's on top of him. Will the passive be procced? It will, as the Arcane Storm doing so much work, and Gen.G, they are just going to ace them. Yeah, that was on my bingo card.
What a fight! Incredibly low Ruler. Chovy does 4,000 damage as he just kites his way through, and Keen could not have played that better on the chase. What a scrappy, broken up fight. I was watching it, and I didn't want to believe. I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was possible, but they just barely pull it off.
Oh, you got to watch Ruler in this one as well. I mean, this is incredible. Now, AG.AL used so much in this fight to get the kill onto the jungler, and just take a look at Ruler. He's in the back line. Nobody's checking him. Tarzan's like, I'm the guy in this game, not you. Instead, it's Ruler picking up thousands of gold, the triple kill into the quadra by the end of it all. And he's just calm and collected. Doesn't even have anything special to say. And look at this in live. They take the Baron.
And even
how much money that was?
Even though
insane.
Chovy dies there, he does so much damage before he goes down. The Arcane Storm stacks up as part of why Ruler is able to do enough damage to take Tarzan out in the first place and continue to clean up so much damage from Keen, though. Why is nobody talking about this guy? He is just a huge, huge impact in that last fight. Just completely untouched. There's just too many threats here, and the fight was so split up for AG.AL. This is the team fighting power of this Gen.G composition when we reach this stage of the game, and now, for the first time, they take a massive gold lead.
I'm pretty sure Ruler just went back and built Terminus outright, and a GA, and a yacht, and a mansion at the same time.
Why not?
That is ridiculous. He's now 4 items to the 2 and a bit that Hope has put together. This guy is massive, and with a GA there for the extra layer of safety, the game went from very straightforward for AL to quite difficult.
You can tell why Gen.G are sometimes taking these crazy fights where it doesn't look like they have an angle, because they just know that guys like Ruler are fed enough that if they find the right angle, they can get the job done. The angle the previous fight to go all in on the Cho'Gath was not it, but in this one, oh boy, he just got so much money. And in a broken up fight, Kai'Sa sometimes is queen, right? I mean, she's just able to do way too much, especially this Fed.
Now, and also if a hook lands onto Canyon, maybe that isn't really what you want.
Gen.G have control over this angle here. They're going to get the banana brush control, and now, like, for what feels like the first time this game, you just can't walk towards this team. The Keeper's Verdict is desperation at best, and Gen.G will get their first dragon here. If AL tried to force into that choke point, it would have been the end of the game. But look at the difference between fighting against Vision and trying to face check with Canyon and try to look for those wards versus having full control, having Keen with the angle he wants, having Ruler able to follow up on anyone who steps over the line. The zone control that the gravity field gives Chovy, this is just a completely different scenario. They still have Baron.
Yeah, this is exactly what you were warning everyone about, and the fact that we needed that constant vigilance as Ruler does have to utilize the flash to get out of the way of the hook. Good respect there from Ruler, but won't have that tool for later on in this game. The Rupture just trying to hold these minions at bay as another hook is going to come on through. This one used on that siege minion to be able to take that one away. And so now Flandre looking a little smaller as the Cho'Gath really wanted to make this one work. And look at this, it's desperation here as the Glacial Prison comes on down. Canyon looking to try and just brute force this inner turret. They should be able to do it as Tarzan comes over and Gen.G say, yep, that's what we wanted. And a 3,000 Baron power play here as the dust settles. And my goodness, Gen.G well and truly back in it. And I'm actually surprised because we had a look at the gold graph, and the biggest the gold lead for AG.AL was about 2.3K.
Yeah.
So they do manage to get Otacon, things like this, which is not necessarily represented by the gold, which does give you a bunch of extra power. But yeah, the gold was never that far in their favor.
To me, the gold was less important than the map control and the vision, because the map control and the vision allows them to take those objectives, right? They had control over basically every objective in this game. They had all 3 dragons. But once you lose that fight, you lose control. Like, that's when the game really swings. That's when the pendulum goes back towards Gen.G's side. And it's that incredible turn there, that scrappy fight that Gen.G were able to clutch out just through raw mechanics, frankly, in a lot of ways on that one, that suddenly put AG.AL in this position with their draft where it feels unplayable. You know, who do you hook? Who do you set up with? Who can you Keeper's Verdict?
Yeah, that's the challenge. Ruler. That'd be a good one, I think.
That would be good. I don't even know if that would matter at this point.
Maybe Keen, based on this damage graph?
What is going on with Keen? Like 30K in this game. Wolf was shouting his name as we were all looking at Ruler. I mean, the two of them just able to do so much. And I said it before, like, Keen's just been given a free game, essentially. Like, he laned against Tank Cho'Gath, who was sitting there feasting and kind of doing nothing. And we know what Cho'Gath does, but it does mean that his opponent kind of just gets to sit back and relax. And when it's Jace, it actually, you know, begins to really pop off in this game.
Some of that damage was on hitting a Cho'Gath, but most of it was just on team fights, but not from poke because he couldn't see. Now he can see. Now he can poke. That number is just going to get bigger in this game as we fight for neutral objectives. A minute 20 before Baron, 2 minutes before the next Mountain Drake here for Gen.G. You can see AL are already concerned about trying to wipe some of this vision away because the double threats of these objectives are so frustrating to deal with for them as they lose control everywhere on the map.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. Bit of double poke landing there onto Hope, but he's got a Bloodthirster, which is a pretty good answer to it. Death Ray coming on in as AL is trying to hold on. They do spot out a lot of this vision. These control wards that they're getting down are consequential. Kyle fishing for that hook angle. Can see a few of them, and doesn't quite get Duro. Almost gets Keen, actually, as Shock Blast going to connect onto Hope. They're a little bit split up now, but Gen.G not overly committing. It's actually Canyon looking for Tarzan towards that top side. Tarzan not pressing an alt button, not even pressing W just yet as the buckler comes on in. The fight for the red buff now is going to be secured as the Shockwave comes on in, but the flash out from Canyon will keep him safe. The heroic charge, and then the knock-up on Chovy, but Tarzan just doesn't really do anything, and the follow-up is not there onto the Victor. And he says, cool story.
I mean, they're just baiting out so much. Like, these fights over the red buff, they don't feel like they're that important, but they are actually huge. You get the red buff, it allows you to stay healthy, it allows you to potentially get a lot of vision control, although when I look in the jungle, it's all to the side of AG.AL. Gen.G don't care. They're just going to start at the Baron in their face.
Canyon's still low health here, but Tarzan doesn't have flash, and Chovy's got the choke point control. There's that gravity field.
The gravity field's so incredibly good here. Is now Duro looking for that angle. As the Arcane Storm comes down, he's just going to walk in. Blandre's there, he just eats it. And obviously he does, as there's the setup. Keen is going to be able to take down his opposite number. And can they actually win a fight after this? Killer Instinct is named well here as Ruler goes in, but he's slowed down by the Make It Rain. And Gen.G, they do manage to get a Cho'Gath, and that's, I guess, a purple monster from the Void, but the Baron works out better. Duro goes in, though, and they really want to force this. Keen goes down as Hope gets the kill, and now it's the Ruler show once again. Shanks is going to get taken out. It's actually a double here for Chovy. And Hope stays alive, Tarzan as well, and they are going to be the sole Baron owners that will not get a look in at this Mountain Dragon.
Maybe you ate the Baron, but you ate it right after that. Got taken out. It was never going to be a team fight win there, and Gen.G, despite having the Baron against them, are able to get the cleanup here. Just wash it away.
Buff timer? Where's that one?
And that's going to be another dragon going over, but look at this.
This is so silly.
Look at these mechanics, guys.
How many smites we got?
They just did a Baron
1,500, yeah.
in front of the team that has like 17 smites. We talked about it in the draft. We talked about it so many times.
Ultimately, in order to do it with how patient Gen.G were, they're going to trade the tankiest, well, one of the most frustrating members to deal with out, while also Chovy is damaging every other person. Remember, this is a misfortune, so she's kind of more combo-oriented.
That was a cute attempt.
He's not a traditional 80 carry, so even though Hope is full health here, he can't really offer damage on the chase back here to provide heal for his team as they try to get away. So once their Cho'Gath's gone, once Chovy's got everyone at half health, they just walk across the red carpet to victory, and Gen.G take a lead in kills here, but it's the 3,000 gold lead, the double Drakes here, the momentum away from AL, and all of that vision that they're going to take away from AL. Again, that's the biggest problem. Sure, you got the Baron, you technically got a positive play on this one so far in this one, but how long does it really last when your Baron's on a Poppy and an MF?
Yeah, they're the only ones. Still, it's going to be up for another minute, so maybe they can get a little bit more. The power play is not negative. So
not yet.
It's not negative, and therefore that means it's positive, right? Still going to work out. The base gold, it's less than that. So they did get the money for killing it. They denied it from Gen.G. They didn't manage to get the dragon, though. So soul point available for Gen.G. Next, of course, it is still there for AG.AL. They are stalling this one out, but it really felt like this game was taken out of their hands, and now it's even because of their mistakes rather than necessarily Gen.G and just being like winning this game from the get-go, right? Things were looking pretty good for AL earlier on. See whether they can pull it back into their hands. As Blandre once again massive.
They're just sieging up against the very lackluster Baron buff here, Gen.G. It's crazy how aggressively they're playing it. It's almost like they're saying, okay, if Blitzcrank doesn't have Hook, he's not really a champion. Cho'Gath, I mean, maybe a little bit. But if we force fights on our terms, we always win. So it's almost like whenever they see AG.AL and the hook goes wide, they're just like barreling straight at them. It looks almost ridiculous, but you can kind of understand where they're coming from, especially with the amount of damage they have with this fed Victor. Well, he's got 4 items now at least. This extremely fed Kaisa and Jace.
And with a build from Chovy here with the Zonias plus the Mountain Drakes they're stacking here, he's so difficult to kill even if you do get on top of him. He also has that activatable, right? These are the Bloodletter's Curse.
400 armor.
Yeah, that's pretty big. It's hard to cut through these champions, especially when your 80 carry is really just the R button, unless you're already winning the fight, right? And with the control that Gen.G have of the map, because they just shut the Baron down so hard, it becomes even trickier to play this out. Now, Gen.G, there's a full 2 minutes before these next objectives, so they can kind of continue to sidelane, try to play around this Victor wave clear here. But an overextension, I think, is the best way back into this game for AG.AL. So maybe this is the cutoff point. Maybe from here, just move back and clear that vision. Don't try to siege these inhibitor turrets just yet.
Yeah, right now they're searching through these brushes with mostly Keen and some truck blast. Hook is going to connect, but it is on to Canyon yet again as Ruler is out of the fight. In goes Dura, but he didn't want to be there. He thought that he was following up for his teammates as Keen. Yeah, he's going to try and boop them away. The red is obviously going to go over to the team with 1 billion smites. And AL, they just take 2 and give nothing back.
There's just no reason to force it beyond the wards there on red buff. And this is a huge swing here for the side of AG.AL, because Baron is now 70 seconds away. They have control. There's no vision here for the side of Gen.G anymore. And all those issues that plagued Gen.G in the mid game can pop right back up here. Momentum completely out of their sails. Now, they also could just go straight up into this mountain soul with this massive Cho'Gath with the huge Poppy that's on the side here of the LPL squad. The choice is theirs, but map control completely belongs to AL. And why push forward past the line?
This is the thing, right? This is the composition. You get the hook, you get the knockup, the silence, the guy dies. It doesn't matter how much armor he has. It could be 400, it could be 400,000. The guy's gonna die, and that's exactly what they do. And it feels like Gen.G are trying to bait out hooks and go from there and try to like set up fights after. They baited out the hook and then died, so that's not exactly the play. I think AG.AL are playing this fantastically. They're trying to set up. They know they're on the back foot here a bit, but they play around their one-win condition in these fights, which is really land the hook, get the follow-up, get the kills. And from there, you can do anything.
The sync on the objectives makes this a really tough call, though, as Gen.G can go, okay, you have Baron vision, but you don't have full vision on Dragon. Let's play through that instead and pull AL down. This may just be the right call, the best call Gen.G can make here, and Chovy's is offering a decent amount of poke.
All right, well, there is the Rupture. Connect onto Canyon. He's looking for his angle here as the ult is going to whip. Everything, in fact, is going to whip, and he's just eaten like a ham sandwich. And now you can see Gen.G continuing to try and find the fight, but AL, they're not interested. They're just going to move over towards the Baron. And Canyon, you just come out of the death chamber. You didn't need to go back that far.
There's just no reason to go in like that. I mean, they were starting to get frustrated because even though Chovy's got Leandres, he's got that poke, they have the keen poke, it just doesn't feel like it's doing impactful damage. They get a little bit impatient. And fortunately for AG.AL, sure, you gave the Dragon, but this is the third Drake for Gen.G. It's not the Soul. Still, that's a lot of resistances that they're stacking up, but this is way more valuable here for AG.AL to get the Baron. They make the right choice there with no jungler on the side of Gen.G. And this might actually be the beginning of the end. Sure, gold is even, but we're 40 minutes in. That means nothing. It's just about the pick potential that Kyle has now, and they're just going to push these waves through, starting to take out those inhibitors. Mid lane also now being pushed by Flandre as TP could join at a moment's notice.
Keeper's verdict is just going to be held on to for now, as my goodness, this turret just gets 3 hit by Hope. But you can see Keen doing a fair bit of damage there. Somehow Ruler finds the backline. There's the ult in! Can they actually get him? But the answer is so good! Still, Ruler is going to go golden. The shockwave connects onto 4, but that may not necessarily be enough. Tarzan manages to get the GA out of Ruler, but it's a double kill for Chovy. He's knocked around like a ragdoll, but they still have the carries. Tarzan gonna go down, and Ruler may have saved it for Gen.G once again in the same game.
Oh, it's incredible how close these fights are. They're still chasing, and another Seeker's going to hit on a Flandre. He should be going down here.
There it is.
The end of him. It's 3v1. It's only Blitzcrank. Can they hold? I don't know.
There's just so much damage in this Gen.G comp. If you don't end up wiping the carries, you got Chovy, you didn't get Ruler. The longevity after the combo is gone, after you've used your buttons as Flandre, as Shanks has used his buttons, Ruler's like, I've got auto attacks for days. They take Hope out, and he wins the fight. But it all starts off with this angle here. He's able to find this follow-up, get into the backline, force Hope back. And because he has the ability to stasis here and get out and the GA, he's just so survivable. And they almost got Ruler. They almost got him. But you only get him once. He pops out of that resurrect, and he just cleans up the fight.
And the target selection was exactly what Gen.G needed in that fight. Shanks goes down first. Hope is very quick to follow. And then they're just lacking damage, right? And so Gen.G will swing that pendulum back the other direction, and now I even have less of an idea of who is going to win this game. That's a negative 300 gold Baron power play, and what was it, the third Baron so far of the game? Yeah. We have 3 dragons on both sides. It's 2.5 minutes on a Dragon Soul for someone, finally. And yeah, I just have no idea who is going to be able to win this. You've seen there's been multiple examples in this game of what winning looks like for both sides. And let's just see what happens in the next fight.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to sit with bated breath here and see what does occur. As pushing forward into a Blitzcrank has not been a success story for Gen.G in this game.
Ooh,
Canyon.
Canyon flanking.
It's crazy how much pressure is on Kyle right now. He needs to hit hooks, he needs to hit the right targets, because if they get chipped away, if they get poked out, you talked about ways in which these teams are winning. The ways in which Gen.G win, they land poke, they get into the back line, they assassinate the squishy targets. The way that AG.AL win is getting hooks, getting picks, you know, blowing someone up. It doesn't matter if it's edge 1.
Combos, the ultimate from the Poppy, you know, splitting the team fight up, basically cheating the fight. AL want to cheat the fight, Gen.G want to play a standard fight. Like, that's how these comps work.
They want
you
to
hook someone, you split somebody up, you get that combo, you win the fight instantly. Gen.G want the longer fight. Oh, you almost got our carry, but you didn't, and they clean up the fight. That's the difference in these comps. But Vision here, and Prio does go to AG.AL. Still 70 seconds away, though. It's a bit early. They hold on to it for now, as we're going to see it back from Flandre. We'll see what he gets for that final item. It's just going to be a ward by.
Yeah, wanting to make sure that they have as much information as possible, as once again, Canyon's lurking. He's spent the whole game lurking, for better or worse. Now looking for, once again, another angle, as Flandre lumbering toward. Like, if he stood in the pit, I would assume that he is a neutral objective right now, because he is gigantic. And Canyon clearing our vision where he can, as once again we are moving towards the ARAM scenario. Chovy moves up, Make It Rain comes down. Glacial Prison not really answered, but Keen finding a great angle. Shockwave connects, and down goes Canyon yet again. But can they win the fight? That's the question. There is the nom onto Keen, and it's a disaster here for Gen.G. Ruler going in. You can sense the desperation as he will use the Zhonya's. The Stand United was there. The delivery of the Shen may have almost worked here, as Ruler is just trying his best to get everything done, but they take down Chovy, and Ruler just cannot do it. AL, that is a clean sweep over Gen.G. Only a Shen remains, but he's a ninja. He's just hiding, and this should be the end of the game.
I don't think Ruler could have done more, but it still wasn't enough. Canyon goes in again. I think it's his 8th death of the game. Wants to buy space, wants to find that angle. But AL, 1 game away now from that reverse sweep. They stand tall, they stand strong. The resilience of this squad here is something to remark about.
46 minutes on the clock here, an absolute slugfest between these two teams, but AL will bring us to Silver region for the first time, as the LCK already claimed it last year on behalf, T1 did it on behalf of the LCK. Let's just see that AG.AL can find it in themselves to win this final game and reverse sweep their way back to glory.
This is going to be an intense game number 5 after game number 4, which was just absolutely bonkers. Now we got all the weird picks coming out. You know, we listed a bunch of standard ones, but a lot of good stuff got bans too. You know, even the Jacks late in the draft. And eventually we just end up with one of the old classic compositions, the TF Camille, just the we're not even going to fight you comp. Just keep you at a distance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was Silas often picked into TF as a counter? I'm just trying to wonder.
It was often picked, yes, a few years ago. Back in like 2021, this was extremely common. You know, after we saw Showmaker, you know, end up getting the TF skin when he won the World Championship, and the Silas was following TFs everywhere during that time, and Silas was also in a really good state at that time. I'm curious about how this Vladimir Camille matchup goes, because it's not something that in my modern League of Legends we see almost ever. Vladimir obviously incredibly strong later on, but can struggle in some of these earlier phases of matchups. Not necessarily as much into melee matchups, but if they play through top side and Keen gets fed before this Flandre Vladimir gets online, it could be a huge issue.
Shield of Daybreak not actually going to be utilized here by Kyle. A little bit unfortunate there for the AL bottom lane, and now with the range advantage, it's kind of big for Ruler and Duro down there. Yeah. So we're having a look, Hextech sweep. This is a start of your answer here, Wolf, as we have a look at the first little salvo of trading.
I feel like especially in game 5s, you can sometimes, you kind of have to throw some lane advantages out the window just because you need stuff that makes sense, that is tier list worthy, but also that makes sense in your composition. And so, you know, I really like the response of Xayah and Renata from the side of Gen.G. They said, okay, we're going to dominate this bottom side. The Leona's not going to have a fun time. The Lucian will not be able to farm too much. You see the other two lanes, you know, relatively even for now. Sure, you know, the melee of the Sylas will be pushed in, but that bottom lane should be dominant here early for Gen.G.
Yeah, that ward got so much value for Ruler and Duro where they were able to chip away, push this in, deny so much farm. Great handshake there, denying the engage as well. Who does end up taking that extra damage there at the very end from Hope, but this has been phenomenal lane control early.
Yeah, the handshake is pretty good, I guess, against the good old Zenith Blade. As Tarzan is zipping around the jungle here on this Zed. Canyon doing his very best to keep up on the lumbering Skarner. AG.AL just continuing to have to deal with Gen.G knocking on their door over and over again. Taking the waves decently well, but it's 7 CS to 17 right now in that bottom lane. It's kind of a disaster.
Yeah, it's the lead you're looking for. Canyon outpaced, of course, as we already mentioned. First back comes through from Tarzan on his full clear, grabs double longsword, and we'll head towards the bottom side of the map to try to help relieve some of that pressure here in this lane as Scuttle will spawn. AG.AL not quite level 3 just yet, as Canyon knows he needs to come down here and match. He's seen on this ward.
Yeah, you can see Tarzan in the area as well, and they don't have a lot of information as there is the Zenith Blade in. Kyle looking for that angle as Ruler is flashing after Hope and gets the first blood. The bailout, can they actually make it work? The answer is no, but now it's another 2v2 as both junglers have made it to the area, and the damage from this Leona is non-existent, so Ruler is able to free hit a double kill to start the game 5 for Gen.G's AD carry.
It is gigantic here for Gen.G in the bottom lane, but I left the idea from AG.AL. The timing was perfect from Tarzan, but the execution, it just wasn't there.
It wasn't there. The damage was so insane from Ruler. He canceled one auto in that fight. I thought that was actually going to be the backbreaker, as we'll watch this again. As he realizes, okay, I have to go all in. Handshake here, decent. Goes all in, actually cancels that one auto as he flashes here. Doesn't get the last one. You can see he's clicking for it desperately. Decides to kite back here. But then the peel from the Skarner is great. The miss here from the ZQ actually really huge in terms of the damage. And with this pushback, they just cannot actually get that final hit onto Ruler. He will be able to take both of these kills and a massive lead. His CS lead was already amazing. As you can see, the stress and then the relief here in the Gen.G booth is now his gold lead is 700.
Yeah, and I guess he's just reminding us all who actually came up with the skin that he's using there towards now the top side of the map. That one's his, and he makes it look real good. Is Canyon going to be taking away this Raptor camp as well, and Gen.G, I mean, this is the thing, as soon as one of these lanes cracks, Gen.G are able to push so much more aggressively. This mid lane, I mean, Chovy with a winning matchup in the early game, and he is certainly making it look difficult here for the Sylas. Yeah. Currently 600 gold in the lead.
I mean, what you said there, Atlas, is very poignant, because if that was their one opportunity, right? If that was their one opportunity to get the summoners out at least, or to get the kill onto Ruler, and to really punish this double range matchup in the bottom lane. But now it's just all out the window. You got a pickaxe here on Ruler. He doesn't have sums for now, but if he plays safe and they just farm it out, like, you're never touching this Xayah. And I mean, Tarzan's got that one kill at least, so maybe a little bit later on, but it's going to be a while.
And you know that basically the enemy jungler has to camp Ruler, otherwise he's going to keep building leads, so the rest of the map just opens up massively. And now we're just going to have this 3v3.
Well, Canyon's just driving in. He's going to beat Tarzan to the punch. As Kyle, where is he going to go? The Destiny is going to come forward, but it's Shanks that's stolen it away. Chovy turns up as well. I mean, everyone can be seen. The Destiny's gates all over the place. And the top lane is just say hi to top lane. The mid lane is, sorry, say hi to top lane, and then we leave.
Sorry, I meant to say 4v4 here in the top lane. As when someone gets this fed this early, the enemy jungler has to respond, or else that lead continues to balloon. That means Canyon also knows this, has to come up, and then the double global mid with the hijack means it turns into a 4v4, but Ruler's untouched. They engage onto Duro, eats enough damage and then backs away, and Ruler, because he has that extra pickaxe worth of stats, the longer fight is always going to be his in these types of skirmishes, especially with this melee Sylas that isn't able to connect CC. Look at the lead that Chovy has generated, by the way, in that range matchup, plus the gold that TF gets with his passive. He's 670 gold ahead, 15 CS up, Ruler 10 CS up, has the 2 kills, and this early game is all Gen.G.
Yeah, did feel like AG.AL just kind of reaching for a second chance opportunity there in the top lane. I was talking about how, you know, maybe this is your chance while Ruler has his sums down, but now that he's got it back, there's just going to be no touching the Xayah and the Renata, who should be sticking around. And Canyon, I love how he was just hovering around them as well, because he knew that that was the one opportunity again for AG.AL to go in. Now, Kyle's doing it here.
Yeah, speaking of going in, yeah, Hope is rotating down. You can see Ruler was thinking about doing the same thing, but just testing the waters. And AL, I mean, it's so hard when you fall behind like this because they have, like, Zed and Vladimir do rely on just doing damage to get rid of you, right? And if you don't have the damage, you are actually just useless. And Tarzan needs to be making plays to try and accelerate himself. He is ahead of the matchup, but Skana will always be useful. You have only CC in your entire kit. And so you can see Tarzan now heading up towards this top side as we're going to do this 3-0 again. The hijack is up, but the Destiny and Gate is not quite there yet. So Shanks should have the advantage, oh, unless he doesn't have the Destiny cooldown. So never mind, not going to be able to head up there. I tell a lie. He could steal something else, though, and then move towards the top lane. He just won't be able to use it to teleport up there.
No, I think
looking for the grubs.
Gen.G getting free grubs here. Unfortunately for AG.AL, like, every time you fail those types of ganks, like, it gets tougher and tougher to pull it off, and this time without even the Sylas angle is just going to be so tough, and they decide not to further push into this. Instead, we're going to hope for some mid to late game fights here with the Sylas. That's going to be a bigger threat later on, and this scaling Vladimir, which we haven't talked about too much in this game, but Flandre is actually laning really well here against this Camille and has generated his own mini lead here, which is important because he's now one of the biggest win cons here for AG.AL.
Yeah, I mean, Flandre's entire tournament has just been beautiful, right? Like back-to-back Sony MVPs 2 days in a row, and was, you know, he's even in consideration for today, right? And it's he's winning this matchup before the Vlad's even level 9, which is kind of like the key level for the Vlad, but when he levels up his Q to level 5, still doing a good job into the melee matchup of, well, the range versus melee matchup of the Camille. So having a good time there. We'll see just how much damage he can do in this game. Currently just farming up as much as possible. There were only 2 grubs taken by Canyon, immediately just went back to farming after that, didn't care for the 3rd one. Maybe wanted to hang around the bottom side with this rotation coming in and look for a dragon, or maybe just another fight on the bottom side of the map.
It feels like every speck of tempo is so incredibly important. For both of these teams, Canyon has made sure that he's getting to exactly where he wants to as soon as he possibly can. Where he wanted to be just then was right on top of a ward, which is not necessarily the greatest. This dragon is going to be the next target, though, as over the wall he goes. There's the dash out from Hope, though. Still, it's feeling like even though they do manage to get out of the gank, they still lose half of the health bar on their solution, and the pressure is still mounting.
He's so patient with this Impale, too. He could have looked for the 2-man there, but he's like, no, I'd rather just have that for the objective itself. When the Sylas comes through, even potentially the Slippery Zed, depending on the scenario. Ruler's got cleanse.
Captain Jack there from Ruler is pretty nice, but the culling softening up Duro quite a lot, and that's going to mean that Tarzan gets some control over this dragon. Mid lane is just going to be shoved in as now the Destiny comes through from Chovy. He's looking for the target. Tarzan getting taken down low as Chovy just trying to distract them as best he can. The flash forward from Kyle on top of Ruler, who's in an awkward position, but the teleport comes on down. Kyle is going to die. Tarzan gets another great smite, but there goes the Leona, and AL still not on the board when it comes to these kills in this fight. There's a hostile takeover. Shanks is extraordinarily dead in this moment, and Canyon is the one that locks down the kill, making it the 4th for Gen.G.
It's so tough for these fights for AL because the running of Zed doesn't really offer any CC at all, frankly, in these moments. And even though the fight looked pretty split up and it looked like maybe Chovy was going to be left out to dry as they engage onto a Leona, He's able to kite it out. He gets another stun. He's ranged, and he can just kind of space his way out there as Gen.G look for the reapproach. Duro has flash. He has ult. He's going to be able to secure the deny on Shanks' re-engage. And ultimately, Gen.G, the decision to go on to AG.AL, which looked so risky, does pay off.
I mean, this is a pitiful engage on a ruler, but you don't really have any other option as AG.AL, right? He's still at Featherstorm this whole time and Flash. And AG.AL's like, well, I'm just going to sacrifice myself. Maybe my team gets the dragon and gets out. You see that Gen.G, they've been doing this all night, where it's like, if there are kills in front of us, we will expend everything to get them, to get the leads, to get the tempo. As Atlas was talking about, it has been so important, especially in this game number 5. It's 2 kills, and it's definitely a large amount of tempo going the way of Gen.G, who are now 2,500 gold in the lead.
I do want to give a shout out to Shanks for that hostile takeover, making these 2 little 1v1s off to the side, really distracting Gen.G. It almost managed to get almost lethal damage onto Ruler as Keen was doing a bunch of work. But unfortunately, it was too little too late, right? The targets had already been taken down, and Gen.G weren't under any extra threat from the rest of AL.
The TF was so important in the end of that fight, because Jovi's offering so much damage, right, and the extra CC. And if you're playing Zed, you have burst damage, but not that much this early, and you can't CC anyone. Like, nobody can lock Chovy down, so they are able to peel off the Leona and then just win the longer fight. And speaking of Leona, AG.AL is going to be the target here again.
Hook shot going to come through there as Keen. Down to 50%. Hextech Ultimatum going to come in, though, as Solar Flare getting some decent work done. The culling is lying in wait, and the Hemoplague does come on down as well as Canyon just going to present Kyle as a target. He is going to go down. Hextech Sweep comes in, but now it is another gate combo, and this time it's a Silas trying to make his way in, but he doesn't actually get there. Doesn't pull the triggers. Oh, Shanks flashed for it, but it is actually Tarzan that gets the max range shuriken.
Yeah, that was a really weird fight. I mean, Gen.G were like, okay, we really want to kill this Leona. Let's kill this Leona. Let's do it again. They were so close to killing Kyle so many times, and it's just a Leona. They didn't want to overextend, but they finally got him, and they did overextend a little bit. I mean, they just trade support, so it's not the biggest deal, but a lot used for that weird fight.
It's why I was so concerned about the last fight where they collapsed onto AG.AL, but because it was split up and the rest of AL couldn't actually try to save him or follow up on the play while he's tanking, it did work out for Gen.G a lot better the first time around than it did the second. Still a pretty good fight for Gen.G at the end of the day, but I mean, this is a Leona that's going to absorb so much pressure. You know, they end up ulting her, but she's got eclipse. She's walking out. The redemption has to be used here. Keen is so incredibly low, and then the suppression is used onto Kyle as well. And Zed is actually doing so much damage here in the interim, and then the follow-up does come through Tarzan. Look at how much he does. Really funny to see Shanks attempt here because he thinks the handshake is enough to get Duro out, but Tarzan actually with the shadow is able to get him. He thought the shadow wasn't going to be there in time, so he flashes for it. That's another small advantage that Gen.G do end up picking up here, that the fact that Silas did flash for that even though it wasn't necessary, but at the end of the day, I think they were probably hoping Duro got out instead.
And that's the least of the Silas's worries as well. As you can see, it's a 2.1k gold lead here for Chovy. And well on his way to his next item, the Aether Wisp, now setting up for the Lich Bane after the Rod of Ages has been done for a really long time. He's going to be getting that extra level, maybe sooner than is good, you know, because as you level up, you require more and more experience. Maybe he goes from levels 9, maybe like 13 to 14 instead of that 15 to 16 that you can often get with this item. He just builds it a little early. Yeah, see when it does come in. 5 stacks on it so far.
He is Jovying out of control right now,
by
the way.
Pretty obscene.
He is above 10 CS per minute easily. Keen in a bit of trouble in the bottom lane, though.
He is going to have to make a bit of an ultimatum here with AL, as there's the flash in for Kyle. And where did she go? This is what we were talking about. Best CC is death, and they've got a fair bit of that.
Yeah, the Vladimir pick into this feels pretty good when you can just get out of that.
So far as Hope going to flash, and Canyon says you deserve the ultimate. He does press that button as well. As the culling not going to be able to clear out the wave, and that is going to be out of turret secured here for Gen.G.
To be clear, the death on to Keen is not a trade up here for AL with that turret going down and the control Chovy does have on the top side, but it is a little bit of injection of gold here to AL. Zed has all the kills right now. TP flank here is going to be interesting, let's say, in terms of catching Gen.G, and they're just going to opt to avoid it entirely and look for the Herald versus Break trade.
Yeah, Dragon going to be taken here. Second one for AL.
Jovi's going to get that turret top side, it looks like. Yeah, down it goes. So he just has such a lead. So that's why I was saying, yeah, you got Camille, but you lose 2 turrets. You're going to lose a Herald, which will guarantee a third.
Is he going to hit 200 CS at, like, what, 17 and a half minutes? Like, what is
he is going to hit 200 CS. He's going to be very fast and very Chovy. Yeah. And, you know, we've talked about it a lot, the TF passive. That's going to make him almost 3,000 gold ahead 17 minutes into the game. And it's not just because his team is stomping or anything like that. That's not even really happening. It's just him. And he's already got his Lich Bane, 2 items, and a dagger on top of it all. So... And, you know, I feel like in general, especially with the Cloud Soul on the way, like the 2 Drakes should feel really good for the side of AG.AL, but with the amount of tempo and the 1-3-1 style of composition that Gen.G have, I feel like the Rift Herald is just going to get so much value here.
Time, I think, is all AG.AL are praying is going to come to them. Like, they have 2 Drakes, so that buys them a ton of time. They can avoid fights for a little while here. And this Vladimir will become stronger and stronger. The burst potential of this Zed onto the Xayah, force out Featherstorm for any other reason, becomes a little bit more powerful later on. But it's just surviving. That's the hard part now, getting that extra time, living long enough. Because yes, the Sylas feels so useless when you look at the 2.6k number on your screen, when you look at the 2 items for Chovy, but he will eventually get enough gold to be a threat in this game. There's so many ways to get on top of the Xayah that 1 Featherstorm isn't enough, because yeah, Chovy just gets more money. But I'm really trying to say with so few words that AG.AL still have a chance in this game despite all of these deficits, but survival, that's the hardest part. Like, if they can live to see a 35-minute game, maybe we can have that conversation.
Well, you can see the shadow was set up. Tarzan had an idea that perhaps there was someone lying in wait there, so nice little defensive play. Still sacrifices a fair chunk of his health bar. There is one thing that I'm worried about, and it goes back to Double F's question earlier on in the day, and that is, you know, why the TF and the Kalista. These are 2 picks that haven't necessarily been working. TF we haven't really seen here at EWC that much, and we'll see whether Chovy can make it happen. His time is now as the Destiny does come in. But the gate will not follow, as he has found an inner turret, guys, and that is something he'd prefer to have, as the rest of AL are moving over. And a gateless TF, certainly one that is a little bit more killable, but look at the vision. Look, there's like, he's flanked by control vision everywhere right now. And so far, so good here for the TF comp. But I want to draw your minds back, right, to Chovy of another time. And he, like, when TF was meta, he would do this all the time. And then sometimes they just lose anyway, because it doesn't do as much as a lot of his pivotal picks for getting AoE CC in team fights. You're reminded of his Galio, things like that, AoE damage with his Victor and his Azir. This is a little bit more finesse, a bit more side lane, and a bit more map control. And in the past, it didn't work. I'm looking forward to seeing the evolution of Chovy as he tries to make it work here in this game number 5 for all of the marbles.
Gen.G are just insane with how much they bully. Like, they got this lead, and now they're like, everything is ours. Your Raptors, your wards, your red buff, your turrets. We're taking everything. And AG.AL, I mean, they got to make something happen. But again, there's just, they found an engaged champion. But yeah. There was still the Xayah available. There was still the Renata Glask available. And what target do you go on to here? It just feels like there's too much peel for Gen.G.
There's no
They got to find
play.
something.
There's no proactive play I think you can make right now. You have to do exactly what Flandre is doing and, like, hold the wave as close to turret as possible, hold Shanks' wave as close to turret as possible, and farm minions and pray that Gen.G are going to make a mistake. Pray that they're going to overextend. You have 2 extra dragons worth of time for Soul before Soul is an issue for you, right? So that's like 10 minutes of time they've arguably bought here, as long as they keep their inhibitors up. You will still have to do things like contest Otacon. You will eventually have to contest Baron in 4 minutes time here, but spend those 4 minutes getting any money on the map that Gen.G will allow you, because right now, that is all that you could do.
Chovy's about to Flame Horizon his top laner. This is kind of obscene. We can tell where a few of these minions are coming from. Chovy making sure that he accelerates as fast as he can. The rapid fire cannon, actually very important item here for the Twisted Fate.
Here's that Otacon take.
Yeah, they're looking for the angle here as the handshake comes in. And now they have to face check. They have to go for this.
TP.
And what are they going to be able to do? I mean, Kyle, he's seen the Destiny just gives you infinite vision. The Black Sheep wall just typed in chat, feeling pretty good as Chovy hunting for a target. with this yellow card, but AL getting into a decent position. It might even just be a 50-50 here, as it is going to be secured by Canyon, as he doesn't find the impale, but the hostile takeover is absolutely fantastic. Another handshake is good, and Chovy picks up the first kill of the fight. There is one back as Shanks gets one, and now the Vladimir might be able to get something done. Shanks finding the chains, but he then goes down as it's a double for Chovy. Could it be a triple? The answer's no, as that kill belongs to Ruler. There's the shutdown as Canyon says he wants a double, and Gen.G will win yet another fight. Grab an ace and they can take whatever they want.
I don't think it was the safe fight that Gen.G fans are looking for. I don't think it was the safe turn they were looking for, but they secure the objective and they win the fight in the end. A fantastic impale from Shanks, almost saves the day, but they still had bailout. Ruler was still alive. He was able to do massive amounts of damage in this, and unfortunately, despite a really good performance from Flandre in this fight, he just doesn't have the damage yet.
He's just not quite ready yet, and it feels so bad for him. Like, he gets in and he actually does do a lot of damage. This impaling we're talking about, the stolen one, is gigantic. And then you've got the Momancer right in there, Flandre trying his best. He almost bursts down Ruler, and they finally get him through the bailouts as Ruler has to flash forward just to get the takedown, but immediately dies. Actually really close down to the wire, but Gen.G barely get across the line. And a huge reaction from Ruler as he knows, okay, we did it.
Look at Tarzan's face as well. Like, that fight could not have been closer. And I think given the circumstances of how much of a lead Gen.G had in this game, every Gen.G fan is like, okay, thank God it didn't go the other way, because it was a little bit risky the way they played that one out.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been allowed to be that incredibly close. Like you guys say, Shanks wrapping around and finding the angle. Is Kyle going aggressive? Another Destiny comes on in. They know exactly where everyone is. Kyle going to be the target, and he should go down pretty comfortably as a Feather Storm will be invested. It's a decently large cooldown, but Canyon is just driving around. He'll take 2 ultimates for his trouble. Gets the suppression, but he does fall. Another hostile takeover. There are in fact multiple of them all over this rift right now, but the handshakes are so good, and Gen.G are just controlling this battlefield. And even though they lose Canyon, they will win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, another kind of close one. There were double ultimates used on the Canyon by Tarzan and Flandre, and they barely were able to chunk him down. And yet still, they almost were able to win a bit towards the end of that fight. It ends up being a 1-for-1 trade, but like, man, Gen.G, again, they're bullies. They're getting in there. They just want to take any fight that they can.
They just have so much of a gold lead here, and this Xayah is so fed, and even Chovy does a decent amount of damage in these fights range-wise, that even if you kind of just roll in and play it very aggressively, you don't play it subtly, you don't try to kite back, and you just kind of go, yeah, maybe you got a hostile takeover, we still win, by the way. It might be enough when your Twisted Fate is 3,600 gold ahead, your Xayah is 3,000 gold ahead. Hope is often alive at the end of these fights, but he just can't offer anything, as Kyle's looking for an angle here.
Possible 2v3 here in favor of AL as Tarzan takes so much damage. Okay, maybe it's not, as Keen will take a bit back, and Duro, he's going to turn up. Chovy looking for the angle here as Handshake brings back the Leona, and look at this. They're just holding them at bay, and down goes the Leona for the first kill in the fight. Now Canyon throwing rocks around. Hope is going to make it back to the turret and should be able to deal with this wave, as rapid fire cannon is just such a ridiculous item. Now the Destiny comes in. That's going to confirm the inner turret in this top lane, and maybe they can move to a Baron, although that sounds risky.
Shanks and Flandre do both have TP here. Hope is still alive, so I think trying to start this Baron with pretty low health bars here for Gen.G without a reset is probably not going to happen, but look at the vision control they have around the pit, in the pit, to the left of the pit. They can't just reset and look for a take, as Shanks is trying to delay those resets.
Yep, gets that information that Keen is in this brush, as now it's a bit of a struggle, and he will just get taken down. That is not the information that he wanted when he pressed that Destiny button, and now the fight is going to extend. Flandre having to use that pull pretty early. They will be able to make their way out. Flandre teleporting into that is also a really big deal, because he was a big threat on that side lane, making sure that he gets as much money as he possibly can to try and do that damage, because that's what keeps him relevant.
Yeah, I love this from AG.AL. They're getting very scrappy. They're trying their best to find whatever angle they can, but unfortunately little mistakes here and there are just tipping the scales bit by bit towards Gen.G, and it's already really heavy on their side. They're just about to crest 50,000 gold.
Yeah, the timing of that Hextech ultimatum for Keen was so massive, because it denies the CC. He's able to get on top of Shanks, get past him there. and then they end up getting the pick onto the Silas, who still has TP. Should Gen.G decide, should they have decided to immediately start up that Baron again. But they still have vision control. They don't have to force this right now. They are pretty big in terms of the 80 damage they can offer with this TF and the Xayah. There's not enough damage to rush this down before a contest here, and you just don't want to keep the game flippy. You don't want to keep the game in a volatile state here as Gen.G. You just want to push waves, keep that lead. You had choke out the Vladimir, so he can't actually get the farm he needs to get that third item online. Just make it hell for AG.AL to even farm on the map. Don't give them that scrappy fight they're looking for.
Certainly not looking like it's a thing they can take right now, as this inner turret going to be taken immediately. Dragon going to be up in 8 seconds time. That may distract Gen.G for a few moments, as they will send Canyon and Ruler over there. 3.3k is Ruler's lead, and we're now up to 4.5k, was approximately the advantage that Chovy had in this mid lane.
So in 18 minutes, that was when really the second Dragon was taken for AG.AL. You can see that extra 10 minutes of time those two Drakes have bought before. Now we're at Drake parity, 2 Clouds. No inhibitors have gone down. No Baron has gone over. It's a thread that 9,000 gold behind AG.AL hang from. But they do have a thread. The thread exists, and it is this Vladimir that now has a Shadow Flame online. If there's a fight they could take, it's going to have to be stopping Gen.G on an aggressive Baron take. One more chance, one more try for the LPL representatives to do what they could not do in Game 5 against Gen.G at MSI, what they could not do against T1 at MSI, to try to take this title.
You know what they could do? They could smite Barons away from Gen.G. So hopefully Gen.G do not start this objective. I think perhaps they have learnt over the last couple of games to just not do that. And as I say it, immediately, that is not going to be the case. They do start it up. Tarzan, is going to be taking a lot of damage.
A keen flank.
Information advantage is massive with that Destiny just being thrown out. And AL will move back. That ulti is going to wear off, though, before the Baron is actually down, as into the pit goes Canyon, and can they burst this down is the question. Yes, they can, because the Blade Caller is going to be there. Now Tarzan with the death mark, but the death is his in this fight. Now Chovy just trying to kite around Flandre, who gets out of Hemoplague, but the pool's on cooldown. The flashes go forward, and Hope is the target. He's taken down, and in fact, he dies with all the hope of AL at the same time, as this should be the ace just after the Baron. And Gen.G, they may just have done it. They may have just won Game 5 and made themselves the EWC winners here for 2025.
They have absolutely done exactly that, Atlas. Gen.G will be your winners tonight.
Gen.G accomplishing what they could not with the early drop-off last year at 2024, arguably their most disappointing result of the year. And this time, they'll be the ones to crush the final key and lift the trophy. A hard-fought series despite a 2-0 lead. AL did not give up. It was a hard-fought win in Game 5, but a dominant Game 5 to close it out.
An incredible victory here for Gen.G. Like you say, the history from last year making up for that, but also the Club Championship, such a huge thing for this team that has already had success in 2 other titles. They will be skyrocketing themselves with all of the points that they've accrued just here today, as that trophy will be completed, and Ruler gets to lift another one alongside his teammates here for 2025.
That's it. The key is inserted.